Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. American comics start with Level 5 Mutants. Chapter 21. Experience of Sunshine +1. At this moment, Su Yao felt that he could control the skylight, that is, the sunlight above his head, and bring them together. The soft golden sunlight shone on Kalpana and others, drowning everything. The moment the sunlight, which carried special power, shone on them, screams broke out one after another. Kirill and others saw that all the materials on the 5 people shrouded in the sun, whether it was Kalpana or the other 4 men, whether flesh, blood or clothing, began to decompose. Things turn into particles, and then those particles dissipate again and return to nothingness. This kind of power, Kalpana, who could still maintain some consciousness, stared blankly at the indifferent young man not far away with her decomposed eyes wide open. You're not a level 2 mutant. She murmured 4 words. The ultimate threat. The legendary top mutant represents the ultimate threat to mankind, possessing the power that mankind truly fears. Omega mutants. The name came to mind, and she opened her mouth, looking reluctant to say something, but before she could say another word, her whole body was wiped out in the bright sunshine. The other 4 people's faces were full of horror. Both Hiro and Steven felt unbelievable at this moment. What power is this? Isn't this boy named Kevin a level 2 mutant? His ability now is nothing like that of a level 2 mutant. He has simply surpassed Kalpana by an unknown amount. Omega mutants. How could there be such a mutant? We are so arrogant in front of mutants of this level. Steven and others' faces were filled with fear. It turns out that if you move your hands, you will die. It's them. Why not reveal your identity earlier? If you reveal your identity, then they will not be arrogant. Why? In the extreme unwillingness and fear, they also followed suit and instantly turned into particles and returned to nothingness. The ultimate threat. Listening to Kalpana's words before she died, Kirill and the other 3 people watching not far away had doubts in their eyes. Although they didn't understand the meaning of the word, they just felt it was unclear. Did Su, not far away, master a very terrifying power? They thought confused. However, this was no longer doubtful. What they saw in front of them had already shocked them. As the sunlight disappeared, what caught their eyes was that a thick layer of ground had disappeared. It was as if it had been erased, and together with those 5 people, it was as if it had never existed. What a terrifying power! At this moment, they were shocked and frightened. Looking at the young man standing not far from them, they all took a step back. They were afraid and unsure whether they would disappear if they got too close, or what if the other party's mutant ability got out of control. So at this moment, even if they didn't want to think so, they still felt uncontrollable fear and rejection of the boy. If humans have rejected mutants, then they have rejected Su. Alien among aliens, special among special. The boy who had this kind of power frightened them. At this moment, Su Yao ignored them, but felt himself. Feeling the exhausted light energy in his body, he couldn't help but feel helpless. It only covers half of the room, but it consumes all the energy in the body. Moreover, this still relies on the power of sunlight. If it is late at night, there is a long way to go to improve the energy in the body. Su Yao shook his head. Ignoring the huge energy consumption, the power of the sun really shocked him. The essence of this ability is to decompose at the atomic level. Then continue to decompose until everything is reduced to nothingness. It can be said that this ability directly destroys the balance, because it seems to permanently erase a part of matter, which is beyond common sense. Su Yao knew that this ability could indeed be called an Omega-level power. He stretched out his right hand, and the light energy that had recovered in his body was exhausted, and then a ray of light appeared from his hand. I don't know if it's because of light energy, but the light is golden and has the smell of sunlight. Sure enough, even if I don't actually use sunshine, I can still use part of my power. This light has the power to turn everything into nothingness. He had felt a slight change in his body before, and it really wasn't wrong. Maybe there are changes in the genes in the body, right? With this guess, Su Yao looked at the light that dissipated in just a moment and smiled helplessly. With the current state of thirst in the body, if you want to use the sun without the help of sunlight, you should first find a way to increase the energy in the body. Speaking of energy, with the appearance of sunshine, there is a little more energy in his body, which can only be said to be better than nothing. While he was thinking, Kirill in the distance hesitated for a long time before he dared to speak to him. Are you okay? Kirill's voice was filled with fear. Su Yao shook his head and said it was okay. The atmosphere at the scene suddenly solidified. Kirill and the other three were a little embarrassed and wanted to change the atmosphere, but there was no way. Even Heidi was now afraid of the power possessed by the young man in front of her. Naturally, it was impossible for them to return to their previous attitude. After a while, Kirill asked hesitantly, "Is that your mutant ability?" Su Yao thought for a while and nodded. The three of them took a slight breath. Then, "That's too scary, isn't it? And, is this your fourth ability?" Kirill took a deep breath and looked at Su Yao with perverted eyes. Heidi and Mark were equally shocked and envious. At this time, Kirill thought of something and said anxiously, "Hey man, I think we have to leave. When you just used that ability, it was like a golden searchlight hit us. If we don't leave." Kirill made gestures and exaggeratedly described it. Su Yao knew that the movement was indeed a bit loud. When the sun is shining, it is not as peaceful as it looks on the surface. The sunlight from the outside is focused together, causing this area to be extremely bright, while other places are even a little darker. This is like telling others that there is a problem here. It looks extremely conspicuous. A few people packed up their things and quickly evacuated the place. Sure enough, after a while, there were footsteps and conversations approaching, as if someone was here to investigate. On the road, Mark hesitated for a moment and said, "Sue, you just killed those people from the underground organization. Aren't you afraid of getting into trouble? I heard that they are powerful in numbers, and their leader is a very powerful mutant." Su Yao shook his head when he heard this and said he didn't care. He really didn't take it to heart. He had already offended the American department before, and now it was not a big deal to offend an underground organization. As the saying goes, if you have too many lice, you won't be itchy. Don't worry about it until someone from the underground organization comes to find you. Thinking about this, Su Yao couldn't help but think of the experimental base and the people who were chasing him. Compared to before, he now has a little more confidence. When he reached a fork in the road, Su Yao suddenly stopped and said, "Let's separate when we get here." What? The three of them were startled at first and opened their mouths, but in the end they said nothing and nodded in agreement. No matter whether it is Su Yao or them, after what happened not long ago, they can no longer go back to the beginning. After saying something careful, the three of them watched the mysterious young man walk away. "Okay, don't look at it anymore. Why, you can't bear to part with it?" Heidi patted Kirill on the shoulder, with amusement on her face. "No, I'm thinking, what is the ultimate threat?" Heidi and the two were stunned, recalling what Kalpana said before she died. "We'll find out by asking people then." Mark smiled. Heidi on the side agreed. "Yes, we will ask others when the time comes." Kirill nodded with a smile. When they parted ways, the unusual sunshine incident in this area was also posted online, causing a flurry of discussion. Netizens are talking a lot. "What's this? Oh my god, what's wrong with the sunshine in this place? It looks so weird. Are aliens invading, or are military bases researching new weapons? Could it be a mutant's superpower? No, this is sunlight. Can mutants control it?" Netizens are talking a lot and making all kinds of outrageous speculations. After parting ways with Kirill and the others, Su Yao walked alone in a remote alley, covering his mouth and coughing several times. While he was looking for a new place to stay, he was looking for opportunities to practice various abilities. Black Particle Experience +1. Space Transfer Experience +1. Rebound Shield Experience +1. Rebound Shield Experience +1. After a while, he opened the panel with a thought. Name: Su Yao. Age: 16. Remaining lifespan 36 days. Mutant abilities: Imitation, Energy Absorption. Current imitation object: Orochi. Title: Sun God, Will of the Earth. Unlocking progress 79%. Ability: Space Transfer 39 500ths Level 2. Black Particles 34 500ths Level 2. Rebound Shield 7 500ths Level 2. Divine Finger 3 500ths Level 2. Sunshine 1 100th Level 1. Soul Extraction 0 100ths Level 1. Spiritual Power Light Pillar 0 100ths Level 1 unlocked. Energy Points 413. Looking at the estimated lifespan displayed above, Su Yao shook his head and sighed secretly. Facing a body riddled with holes, even the current light energy is a little weak, or it may be that the light energy is not powerful enough. The first time he thought of improving the light energy in his body. He glanced at the panel, staring at the second-level abilities, and frowned slightly. It takes too long to upgrade the second level to the third level. It is better to upgrade the remaining first-level abilities to the second level first. Sufficient energy in his body also allows him to truly unleash his sun-drenched power. Although Sunshine was only at level 1, Su Yao felt that it had not reached its upper limit when he used it before. The lack of energy in his body resulted in it not being fully unleashed. If there was enough energy, the Sunshine would probably be several times stronger than before. The question comes back to the energy in the body. Su Yao glanced at the spiritual light beam and the soul. You can find a hidden place to practice the spiritual power light beam. As for the soul extraction, Su Yao touched his chin and quickly found a way. Living people can't be easily used for practice, so animals can't. Just buy a small animal, and then use the soul to go out and in. In this way, you can complete the upgrade of the soul. Only, it seems like I don't even have the money to buy a small animal. Su Yao was a little distressed. However, he didn't worry about it for long, and he quickly came up with a solution. Half an hour later, he walked out of a dark alley with more than $500 in his hand. Su Yao, who had just done a crime to help the poor, showed a smile on his face and praised, "Thank you to the United States for the relief fund. Today is another beautiful day. Free America, well, happiness every day." After getting the money, Su Yao, wearing a hat and mask, ran to the market and bought a red-eyed white rabbit. After finding a remote and uninhabited place, Su Yao put the docile little rabbit on the ground, and then stretched out his right hand. Soul removal. Soul extraction experience +1. He grabbed the white rabbit with his right palm, and then a white-purple light appeared, and he grabbed a white-purple light group out of the rabbit's body. As soon as the white-purple light ball was taken out, the white rabbit's eyes immediately became dull, like a puppet without any soul. Su Yao looked at the light ball in his hand in surprise. The outside of this light group is lavender, but the inside is blazing white. And in the white light group, an illusory rabbit appeared in it. Is this the soul? Su Yao Yuan was surprised, and then studied the rabbit's soul. He found that this soul was not only illusory and transparent, but its eyes were also dull, and it looked like it didn't have much intelligence. I don't know if there is any difference in human souls, Su Yao pondered. Looking at the light ball in front of him, he had a feeling that he could easily crush this energy ball if he wanted to. However, the rabbit's soul will probably be extinct by then. Su Yao tried to stuff the rabbit's soul back, and with a flash of purple light, the rabbit's soul returned to its body. Then, he began to come in and out inhumanely. Soul extraction experience +1. Soul extraction experience +1. Soul extraction experience +1. Soul extraction experience +1. Ability. Soul removal 77/100 level 1. When night fell and there was no sunlight to restore the energy in his body, Su Yao put down his hand with regret. At this time, the little white rabbit's eyes were dull, as if he had been spoiled. It looks like it won't be upgraded until tomorrow. After sighing, he picked up the rabbit and rushed towards the shelter he had found. On the way, he took a look at the more than 400 energy points left, and subconsciously looked at the unlocking progress. I don't know what ability I will awaken next. Levitating and flying. When he thought of flying, he couldn't help but think of Superman and the people of his motherland. Walking slowly is not as convenient as flying. Moreover, the momentum bonus brought by flying cannot be compared to standing on the ground. Su Yao was looking forward to it. Then, he added all the remaining energy points to the unlocking progress. Pity. No change. Su Yao frowned slightly when he saw that he was stubborn and still at 79%. Forget it, let's talk about it tomorrow. He randomly found a black hotel and moved in with the little white rabbit. The sun rises and the moon sets. Light energy +1. Light energy +1. While basking in the sun in the room, Su Yao continued to stretch out his claws towards the little white rabbit. Soul extraction experience +1. Soul extraction experience +1. After a while, a beep appears. Ability. Soul removal 0.05, level 2. Feeling an increase in energy within his body, Suyao felt a lot more secure. The energy in his body now is estimated to be able to be used more than 70 times if he uses the first level ability, and more than 30 times even if he is the second level ability. There is one left, and it should be improved today. Suyao looked towards the spiritual power light pillar. After checking out of the room, he walked towards the remote place he found last time. Just halfway through, his expression suddenly changed slightly, and he looked into the distance from the corner of his eye. I saw some uniformed police officers questioning passers-by on the street. They all held a photo in their hands, and the photo seemed familiar to them. Hello sir, I wonder if you have ever seen. Listening to the distant voice, Suyao's expression changed slightly, he lowered his hat and left here quietly. Is this a confirmation that I'm nearby? Arriving at the last place, Suyao felt a little heavy. If those guys found him, he would probably inevitably have to fight, but he wasn't completely ready yet. Spiritual Light Pillar Experience +1. Spiritual Light Pillar Experience +1. Blue energy pillars suddenly emerged from the ground, looking very strange. When the time came in the afternoon, he successfully upgraded the spiritual light beam to the second level. Ability: Spiritual Power Light Pillar 0.05, level 2. Not only is the power of the upgraded spiritual light beam greatly increased, it even emerges from the ground much faster. He even felt that now the spiritual light beam could not only appear from the ground, but also be emitted by his hand. After glancing at the abilities that were almost all level 2, Suyao couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. It can be said that he suddenly changed his skills, and the power of his abilities increased greatly. Even the second level ability can be used about 40 times before the energy in his body is exhausted. Now there is only one sun shining that has not yet ascended. Suyao murmured. However, not only is the movement of the sun shining, but it also consumes a lot of energy, so the improvement is expected to be very slow. Try it and see if you can do a castrated version. Suyao's body suddenly glowed with bright sunlight, which was filled with the light of the power of nothingness. It's just that this time there is no sunlight involved, and it relies entirely on the light energy in his body. He slowly increased the intensity until his whole body was covered by bright light, and the prompt sounded from his ears. Experience of Sunshine +1. Call. Suyao breathed a sigh of relief. Although it still consumes a lot, it is much less compared to the actual use of sunshine. If he really uses sunshine, all the energy in his body will be cleared at once. Next, he started practicing over and over again. Light energy +1. Light energy +1. Experience of sunshine +1. Experience of sunshine +1. Experience of sunshine +1. It wasn't until the sky got dark in the evening that Suyao stopped. After taking a look at the sun-drenched data, he breathed a sigh of relief. Ability: Sunshine 23/100, level 1. It's almost time. It should be upgraded in the next 2 days. Suyao had some expectations in his eyes. I wonder what will happen if Sunshine reaches level 2, will it become more powerful or consume less? Or maybe the range is suddenly increased, like when the rebound shield is upgraded to level 2. With anticipation, Suyao left this place and started looking for a new place to live. Just half an hour after he left, a team of fully armed personnel appeared. The target should have left not long ago, look for it quickly. Footsteps come and go in a hurry. Suyao, who was looking for a new residence, suddenly stopped in his tracks. He looked into the distance with surprise. Looking at a man in the distance wearing a black jacket on his upper body and jeans on his lower body, he felt familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere. With doubts, he slowly followed the man, preparing to follow him and take a look. After a while, he followed the man to the door of a bar. As soon as he entered, a harsh sound rang in his ears. Bang bang bang. Loud rock music echoed one after another, resounding in this bar with colorful lights. The man he was following walked to the bar and sat down, expertly ordering a bottle of wine. Looking at the man smoking a cigar and drinking wine, Suyao felt more and more familiar. Taking a closer look at the man's hairstyle, he found that the man's hair was a little raised, like two wolf ears. It's him. Suyao whispered the name, Wolverine, Logan. With a certain thought, he slowly approached the bar. When the two were only a few steps away, he was basically determined. He looked carefully at the man drinking in front of him. This man's face has clear lines, thick and strong eyebrows, and a full beard. The body is strong and burly, the muscles look very tight, and the whole body is shrouded in male hormones, exuding a wild atmosphere. He was looking over here, and Wolverine Logan was also looking at him. The boy in front of him was wearing a white short-sleeved upper body and brown shorts on the lower body. He has brown hair and blue eyes. Looking through the mask, it can be seen that his face is very clean and young, and he looks about 15 or 16 years old. Wolverine Logan frowned and stopped drinking. At first he noticed that this guy seemed to be following him, and he thought it was an illusion at first, until the guy followed him into the bar. He was already sure that this kid was following him. It's just that he doesn't seem to know this kid, right? He came closer now, as if he knew himself. Although he was confused, he still said, "Boy, stay away from me." As he spoke, he smashed the wine glass on the table, trying to scare away the young man in front of him. However, what makes Logan wonder is, why is this kid stuck here like cowhide, not moving at all, and doesn't seem to be scared? With doubts, he finally couldn't help but ask, "Boy, do you know me?" Su Yao said casually, "Of course, I not only know you, but I also know your name." Wolverine Logan, right? Logan was stunned when he heard this, and his eyes became more confused. He swore that he definitely didn't know the little guy in front of him, but this little guy seemed to know him. Su Yao looked at him, pondered for a while, and continued, "Not only do I know your name is Wolverine Logan, I also know your other name." Wolverine Logan just frowned, but his expression changed in the next second when he heard a name that felt familiar to him. James Howlett. Wolverine Logan covered his head, and the picture flashed through his mind, as if something flashed, but it disappeared quickly. After recovering, his heavy hands grabbed the shoulders of the young man in front of him. "Who the hell are you, kid?" Looking at the mysterious young man in front of him, Wolverine Logan's eyes flashed with shock. He knew clearly that the young man in front of him was not lying and indeed knew him. He even guessed that this mysterious young man might know his life experience. Since losing his memory, he has been trying to regain his memory. "I didn't expect that I would get a clue today, from the mouth of such a young guy." Su Yao, who was holding his shoulders tightly, was a little speechless. "I didn't expect this guy to have such a big reaction." He was naturally very familiar with the guy in front of him and knew everything about him. As the main character in the X-Men, as long as you have seen it, there is basically no one you don't recognize. "Ahem, let go first." Su Yao coughed dryly. After hearing what he said, Wolverine Logan realized that he was indeed overreacting and quickly let go of the hand that was holding him tightly. But even though he let go of his hand, his eyes were still staring closely at the mysterious young man in front of him. Being stared at by him like this, Su Yao felt helpless. After thinking about it, he decided to reveal some information. Under the dim light, he slowly told Wolverine Logan about him. "On a Canadian estate in 1845, you were still a child of 6 or 7, frail and sickly. Your name is James Howlett, and your loving father is named Jimmy. The tragedy happened one night." As he narrated, Wolverine Logan's expression became less calm, and his rough face gradually became startled, as if he recalled some memories because of his narration. Su Yao glanced at him and continued, "The gardener in the manor killed your father, and his death inspired you to activate the mutant gene." He looked at Wolverine Logan's hand. Then, he said something that shocked Wolverine. "You killed the gardener with your bone claws, but you didn't know that was your father. Your mother saw you as a monster, and you ran out of the house to join your half-brother, the saber-toothed tiger." Upon hearing this shocking news, Wolverine Logan's eyes widened, and some memory images flashed back in his mind. "You changed your name to Logan, and you and Victor went through World War I and World War II together, until one day you met Colonel Stryker." As he said that, Su Yao glanced at Wolverine Logan. He had participated in so many wars but not even received any credit or treatment, and had to suffer persecution from Colonel Stryker. It was really a tragedy. Wolverine's mind was gradually shaken as he listened. Who is he and how can he know so much? Wolverine Logan murmured, his eyes showing confusion. At this time, the two men approaching from the side, Logan's mutant friends, also looked surprised. Having been with Logan for so long, they still didn't know that the other person had such a story. Of course they knew that Logan had lost his memory, but how did the boy opposite know these things? The two looked at each other and couldn't help but feel strange. It felt as if a layer of fog shrouded the young man opposite, making them feel extremely mysterious. After glancing at the two people, Su Yao looked at Wolverine Logan's expression, and after making sure that he didn't care, he continued to tell. You joined the mutant organization led by Stryker. In addition to you, there are also Saber-Tooth Tiger Victor and Deadpool Wade, a mercenary who is good at swordsmanship. Speaking of Deadpool, Su Yao Yuan looked weird. He didn't know if he was dead or not. It would be really troublesome if he wasn't dead. Then, he introduced Agent Zero, Shadow, Meatball, and Brady one by one, even what they were good at and their superpowers. Wolverine Logan and the other two people who were listening felt that the strangeness in their hearts was getting stronger and stronger, and they felt that this young man was becoming more and more mysterious. Is this a military secret? You know this too well. Are you sure you are a teenager? Next to him, Otto, who looked middle-aged and had many wrinkles on his face, couldn't help but speak. Another man, Valentine, who was in his 30s and had a thin build and full beard, also nodded at this moment. Even though he didn't believe in evil, he turned to Logan and asked, is what he said true? After receiving Logan's answer that those words had indeed flashed some memories, Valentine and Otto's eyes suddenly widened, and they looked at the young man in front of them with more and more uncertainty. Su Yao continued to talk in a deep voice. Then, he revealed Victor's bestiality in one operation after another, but Logan chose to quit because he didn't want to be a killing machine anymore, and he also hid his identity to work as a lumberjack, and finally was betrayed by his girlfriend and participated in the Weapon X program. They all said it out one by one. Finally, it also includes the incident where Logan lost his memory due to a series of events. Logan, your claws. Having said this, Valentine and Otto couldn't help but glance at Logan. Even Logan couldn't help but raised his hand and looked at it. He finally knew what happened to his metal skeleton. Wolverine Logan looked gratefully at the mysterious guy in front of him. He didn't know who the other party was, but the other party told him the truth, so he would thank him. However, after being bombarded with this series of information, together with Valentine's two friends, they couldn't help but have a question in their minds. Who is this young man? Do you even know everything about Logan's childhood and even his participation in military experiments? Like seeing it with your own eyes. The three of them couldn't help but come up with this weird idea. Then the three of them denied it in their hearts, thinking it was impossible. How could this young man see it with his own eyes when he looked so young? His temperament doesn't look like an old monster, he just looks like a young man. Speaking of old monsters, the two Valentine glanced at Logan and were surprised at each other's age. Can Logan be their grandfather? Wolverine Logan next to him was still a little shocked. It was really unimaginable for him that something that even he had forgotten would be known so clearly by a young man. The feeling that the memory brought to him also made him know that what this young man said was all the truth. Now, although he has not fully recovered his memory, listening to the young man in front of him narrated, he also recovered a little memory, understood the general story of the matter, and understood the origin of his life experience. But, there's a problem. Wolverine Logan had complicated eyes and murmured, "Who are you, little guy?" Could the other party be someone to him? Not an enemy. Acquaintance. Relatives. He raised his eyebrows irritably. Suddenly, he felt that the young man opposite him looked at him with some pity, as if he was pitying him for something. Little guy, why are you looking at me like that? Su Yao opened his mouth and sighed, but in the end he didn't say anything. After telling what happened in the first half of Wolverine, he thought about the second half of Wolverine, the tragic ending. In his later years, Wolverine even had to drive a taxi to survive. The current Wolverine is gone forever. In the end, he died to save other mutants, and the plot looked a bit sad and uncomfortable. The final moment is what best describes Logan as a hero, rather than as a mutant fighting and killing. Su Yao shook his head. Not only Wolverine, but also Professor X, Charles, was very miserable in his later years and even suffered from Alzheimer's disease. As the most powerful brain in human beings, it is really incredible that it can suffer from Alzheimer's disease. Maybe it's because the body is not his original body, but the body of his younger brother that he has taken over. Since his younger brother is a vegetative state and has been bedridden all year round without thinking, it is possible that his brain has hidden problems. Of course, it may also be affected by genetically modified foods studied by the government. Under that kind of food, not only the mutant genes of newborns are suppressed, but even people who develop superpowers will be affected. This is probably because of the weakening of Logan's self-healing factor. In addition, without the suppression of the self-healing factor, the possible presence of adamantium alloy metal toxins has made his body worse and worse, and gradually aged. At that time, it was also because of the genetically modified foods researched by the government that it was difficult to give birth to mutants. There were very few mutants left and they were almost extinct. All in all, it was a bad time for mutants, and a bad ending. Su Yao was a little unclear whether that was a story from another timeline or something that would happen in the future. I don't know if there will be a chance to change in the future, or if I will have the ability to go to that timeline and change some things. Teach those governments a lesson. Let them experience again the threat and fear posed by mutants. Su Yao thought with emotion. Of course, after thinking so much, if you ask him which period of Wolverine he likes best, of course he prefers Wolverine Logan in his later years. Not only was he more mature at that time, but he also had an aura of twilight about him that made people feel moved. Suddenly, he thought of something and his expression changed slightly. He suddenly thought, if the timeline was reversed, such as the battle in X-Men reversing the future, would he be refreshed? Thinking of this, he suddenly felt a sense of crisis and had an urgent desire to improve his strength. Shaking his head and glancing at Wolverine Logan and others, he temporarily ignored this idea and turned to the front. Listening to Logan's question, he smiled and said casually, "Why do you look at you so much?" "Because I think of your old age. It was a bad ending. You probably don't want to know." As soon as he finished speaking, no matter it was Wolverine Logan or the other two, their faces were startled, and then they all laughed. They felt that the young man in front of them was really good at joking. After all, how could anyone see someone else's future? However, thinking this way, for some reason they had a feeling in their hearts that this young man was not joking. It felt very strange. No way. It shouldn't be possible. Logan and the others were surprised and looked at the young man with increasingly surprised and confused eyes. Who is this young man, and why can he know so many things as if he has seen them with his own eyes? Isn't this too mysterious? Otto next to him muttered. Loud rock music is still playing. At this time, Valentine looked around and asked in a low voice, "Are you a mutant too?" After finishing speaking, Su Yao glanced at him in surprise, and finally looked at Wolverine Logan, nodded and admitted, "That's right." "Then what is your ability?" Valentine cheered up. After saying this, both Wolverine Logan and Otto's ears stood up. Before Su Yao could answer, a series of abilities came up in their minds. Prophecy, or something to do with time. They couldn't help but think so, because the young man acted too mysteriously, so mysteriously that they had to think so, otherwise they wouldn't be able to explain the weird feeling before. Even though they have never seen or even heard of the time-mutating ability, they cannot help but guess like this. Su Yao thought for a moment and replied casually, "I can move instantly." Spatial ability. The three of them were a little surprised. That's all. Although teleportation was also rare, they couldn't help but feel disappointed. "It turns out we were overthinking it, haha." Valentine, with a beard on his face, laughed. Then, he patted Su Yao on the shoulder and praised, "But teleportation is also very powerful. At least escaping is good." Wolverine and Logan both agree. Most mutants' abilities are very average or even useless. They are very lucky and good to have practical superpowers like teleportation. While they were talking, a group of people hundreds of meters away were also talking. "Sir, the target location has been determined." A soldier hurried over and said this after saluting. "Finally found it." Captain George, who was fully armed, had joy in his eyes. He murmured to himself, "Finally I found you." When he thought about the fact that 5 team members died because of that kid not long ago, hatred flashed uncontrollably in his eyes. "You can't escape this time." Looking into the distance, a confident smile appeared on his face. Not only was this operation assisted by a large number of police officers, he also called in many snipers, who would kill the kid on the spot if he dared to show his head. Not only the sniper, but also the sentry robot, he has approved 7 of them. That kid is dead. Murderous intent flashed in his eyes, and he was too lazy to worry about the order of base leader Alessandro to capture him alive, and decided to kill the vicious kid. He was looking forward to what would happen next. Captain Kenny next to him had a similar expression on his face. Thinking about the young man who escaped from the base, he still felt shame and anger. Despicable mutant, you can't run away this time. Just like what he thought at first, it only takes a few days to catch this guy. Oh, did you find it? At this time, a cool female voice came from not far away. I saw a woman wearing a light dress, with a slim and slender figure, giving people a light and elegant feeling, and exuding charming charm, walking over carrying professional shooting equipment. Hello, Irina. Kenny and the two nodded towards her. Then, Kenny smiled and said, we have locked the target position and are ready to take action. That's good. Irina, who was carrying the filming equipment and followed by a group of program staff, smiled slightly. Not long ago, a video of a mutant went viral on the internet and attracted widespread attention. Her TV station also noticed and discovered this business opportunity. So through connections, they found Kenny and planned to broadcast the arrest of mutant fugitives live to earn a wave of ratings. At this moment, the program has been preheated and has attracted the attention of many people. Many people started chatting and sat in front of the viewing equipment, looking forward to the start of the live broadcast. Glancing at the number of people paying attention, Irina showed a satisfied smile on her face. I'm really looking forward to it. At this time, many people on the internet started talking. Haha, do you want to start? Watching the preview advertisement played, countless viewers were in high spirits. Last time the video host couldn't send out a follow-up, but this time I can finally see a follow-up. Yes, I can finally see the scene of that mutant being captured. It makes me unable to sleep. Everyone, let's guess when that mutant will be caught. I'll bet 20 minutes. I think it shouldn't take long, about 10 minutes. From the preview ads that appeared, they could see the momentum this time, which directly gave them confidence. No one thought they would lose, they all felt that just because of the speed of time, sooner or later the mutant boy would be caught. Just as people were looking forward to the capture scenes that would be played later, some of the mutants watching also became worried. Hope he can escape. They were praying mentally, praying that the compatriot could successfully escape. At this time, both Professor X and Magneto noticed the live broadcast one after another. Professor X looked worried, Magneto's face darkened, and he became increasingly disgusted with ordinary humans. No matter what they thought, they no longer had any hope for the boy's safety. No one knows better than them that the government is so powerful and well prepared that the young man will not be able to escape. Professor X sighed and was already thinking about whether he could get the boy out through connections. Magneto, on the other hand, was thinking about whether to plan another terrorist attack to teach ordinary humans a lesson. While countless people were paying attention to this live broadcast, Kenny and others' team had already surrounded the target location. 30 well-armed soldiers got off the armored vehicles, and some police cars followed behind them to protect them. More than 100 meters away from the target, the soldiers chatted while making preparations. Hey, Lelian, do you think we can catch the target this time? A handsome soldier asked the person next to him hesitantly. Lelian, who was asked by him, glanced at him after hearing this, with a confident smile on his face. Don't worry, we know the target's information very well and have already planned the combat operations. The target can't escape. Before coming, they watched the videos of the mutants fighting many times and knew the opponent's abilities very well. The think tank also arranged a comprehensive battle plan. How could they lose? When the inquiring soldier heard this, he also showed a confident expression on his face. That's right, it's just about teleporting and emitting black energy waves, what's so difficult about it? While some soldiers were talking, Captain George and Captain Kenny were also talking in the distance. Captain George suddenly said, "No 37's strength won't become stronger again, right?" Kenny glanced at him and immediately understood his concern. He shook his head and said with a smile on his face, just like the commander said, being able to hide two abilities and part of his strength has reached the limit of that brat. He has nothing to hide. We have figured out the strength of number 37, and we are fully prepared this time. He can't escape. That's right. Captain George showed a relaxed smile on his face. At this time, Kenny continued, "Don't mention it, we also brought 7 sentry robots." Glancing at a few safes not far away, he looked very confident. Speaking of the sentry robots, Captain George glanced at the box containing the sentry robots in the distance, with some confusion in his eyes. Why not bring those giant sentry robots, but bring out this spider-type sentry robot? There was a hint of dissatisfaction in his words. Upon hearing this, Captain Kenny glanced at him speechlessly and said angrily, "You guy, you don't need funds to make a giant sentry robot. It's enough to get these approved this time. To deal with number 37, we don't need that kind of sentry, and he doesn't deserve it. These sentry robots are enough to catch him." Listening to his words, Captain George nodded, "So that's it." "That's right. To deal with number 37, these 7 sentry robots are enough." At this time, the beautiful Irina, who was standing not far away from them, heard the words and showed a look of interest on her face. "Oh, the Sentinel robot. I heard that you are still researching it, and you have already produced some finished products." Irina chuckled, "Just in time, let the audience see the Sentinel robot this time, maybe the ratings will increase." After glancing at Irina, Kenny and the other 2 said nothing, acquiescing to her filming. The video that was posted on the internet some time ago did have a big impact. This time, through the successful arrest, we can tell everyone that mutants are not that scary, and they are not invincible. Let everyone learn to be confident. This is also the main reason why they allowed Irina to follow the filming. When they were setting up the combat scene, they also attracted the attention of many passers-by. Everyone looked surprised and wondered what department was up to. Exercise. In confusion and curiosity, even though they were warned to stay away, people still followed from a distance, and some even watched from a distance with telescopes. Some distance away from here, Chris, who had rescued Su Yao, was also coming in stride. "Boy, you have to hold on." Ever since he saw the trailer not long ago, he felt a tingle in his heart, knowing that the child was in danger. Although he had seen the child's ability before and knew that it was okay, but when faced with so many forces surrounding him, what was the use of his little ability, and how could he possibly escape? Therefore, he rushed towards that place with all his strength, thinking that he might be able to help. If he could, he would help the child escape. As he rushed there, Captain George and others also started taking action. Bright lights shone on the bar, making the street as bright as daylight. Inside the bar, Wolverine and others who were talking also noticed the panic of the crowd. "Run! Police are surrounding this place. Oh my God, I don't want to be affected." The crowd screamed in panic and rushed toward the exit. "What happened?" Valentine looked confused. "I'll go out and take a look," Wolverine Logan said solemnly. Relying on his self-healing ability, he strode towards the entrance of the bar. Valentine and Otto looked at each other and followed suit without understanding what was going on. Before following him, Otto turned to Su Yao and shouted, "Hey, follow him quickly, let's go take a look together." Looking at their leaving figures, Su Yao's eyes darkened slightly. Unlike Logan and others, he knew nothing and quickly guessed the reason. Those people should be here. He was thinking about whether to use space transfer to try to escape from this place. After a few seconds, he decided to take a look at the situation from a distance and consider whether to run away. He followed Logan and others from a distance. As soon as he reached the exit, his expression changed slightly. He saw that the surrounding area outside was as bright as day, and beams of bright lights shone from the roof of the car in the distance. He saw police cars one after another and well-armed soldiers. A rough estimate was that there were at least dozens of them. He had already begun to think about how he could escape safely. Just as he was planning the route, Wolverine Logan and others' expressions changed when they saw the battle outside. What happened? Such a big battle. In addition to being surprised and suspicious, they also felt guilty, fearing that these guys were here to cause trouble for them. While they were having different thoughts, George and others, dozens of meters away, made a move. Captain George held a loudspeaker and said righteously, "Kevin, the fugitive mutant, we know you are inside, come out, we have surrounded this place, you can't escape." George shouted and sneered at the same time. The kid couldn't have chosen this bar. The surrounding environment was just right for them to perform. While he was shouting, Irina also directed the program team to turn on the phone. The scene here was immediately broadcast in real time through live broadcast, and countless people watched the scene. Immediately, the audience was looking forward to it, looking forward to the scene of the mutant fugitives fighting the police army, and then being defeated and captured. The mutants watching were filled with panic, feeling as if a rabbit had died and a fox had died. Wolverine Logan, who walked out of the bar and was ready to fight, frowned and realized that he was not looking for the three of them. Etc. If you're not looking for the three of them, then who are you looking for? Kevin. A figure suddenly appeared in Wolverine Logan's mind. The two Autos next to them also had some guesses. The two were hesitating whether to leave here. Although they are both mutants, they are not related to Kevin, so they cannot take such a big risk. There were dozens of fully armed soldiers, and they didn't think anyone could defeat them. When they were hesitating, Su Yao was about to use space transfer to retreat, when his expression suddenly changed slightly. Seeing that George in the distance still didn't come out after shouting, he gave instructions to a few soldiers and asked them to open a few boxes. As the box opened, 7 black spiders the size of wash basins stood up, and then crawled towards the bar in unison, at extremely fast speeds. Target locked. A cold mechanical sound sounded. They paused for a moment, then rushed in the direction of Su Yao with extremely accurate direction. Su Yao, who was already preparing for the space transfer, changed his expression slightly. Is this targeting me? He soon figured it out. Are these ghosts, sentry robots? He recognized what these ghosts were. They were a certain type of sentinel robot, but he didn't recognize the specific model. Of course, if it was the famous ghost sentry robot, that is, the sentry robot in Days of Future Past, he still knew what model it was called. It is obvious that these spider-shaped sentry robots, like the ghost sentry robots, also have the function of identifying and locking mutants. Trouble. He knew that if these sentry robots were not dealt with, even if they used space transfer, they would probably be found later. Why do you have to mess with me? Su Yao's eyes flashed with anger. Since these people like to pursue you so much, be prepared to die. The next second, looking at the spider sentry robot approaching 15 meters, he stretched out his hand and pointed. Black particles. Black particle experience +1. The black particles were like bullets, flying towards the sentry robot extremely quickly. Sensing something, the spider sentinel robot's red eyes flashed and it turned slightly to hide. Although it hid quickly, some of its spider legs were still hid and disappeared in an instant, causing it to become unstable and fall to the ground. This is. Wolverine Logan and others were confused and immediately turned their heads to look towards the entrance of the bar. There was almost no one around the bar at this moment. As they got closer, they saw a familiar figure. Is he Kevin? Although Otto and the two had expected it, they were still a little surprised after their guess was verified. How on earth did this young man offend those people and make them so prepared to deal with him? They retreated in their hearts and had the idea of staying away from here. However, Wolverine next to him had a different expression. Tisk, trouble. Logan spit out the cigar in his mouth. He talked about trouble, as if he didn't want to care about it, but his actions were very honest, with a bloody light flashing in his eyes, and he stretched out his adamantium alloy claws as soon as he raised his hands. He rushed towards the sentry robot. The red light in the eyes of several sentry robots that had fled to the dark due to the black particle attack suddenly flickered. They had discovered these 3 mutants a long time ago, but the target was not them, so they ignored them. They did not expect that they would dare to rush over. Obviously, this hinders their ability to capture their target. Soon, instructions to eliminate these 3 people were written into their program. For a moment, 3 black sentinel spiders surrounded Wolverine Logan. With a swipe sound, Logan swept his claws towards the sentinel spider that jumped over. What surprised him was that this thing was unexpectedly strong. Even if his adamantium claws hit the opponent, they would leave a few deep marks and a sense of stagnation. How did that little guy take off this spider's legs so easily? Wolverine Logan's eyes flashed with confusion. Seeing Logan being surrounded by sentry robots, Otto and the 2 who were about to leave in the distance saw helplessness and could only rush over. Otto's figure flashed, and his figure ran out of the phantom. He ran towards one of the sentry robots at the speed of sound, and then punched it. With a bang, the sentinel spider was knocked away, but he also held and covered his red and swollen right hand. Shit, what is this thing so hard? On the other side, white-blue lightning flashed out from Valentine's body, and a crackle of lightning hit the Sentinel spider that attacked Logan. While they were fighting the Sentinel robot, Captain George and others in the distance, as well as the audience watching the live broadcast, also noticed the sudden appearance of the 3 mutants. The target has been taken, teams pay attention. George first reminded the others, then picked up the loudspeaker and warned the 3 Logans. Those 3 mutants, stop me immediately, put your hands high on your head. After giving a few warnings, seeing that they ignored them and that the sentry robots were still ready to be wiped out, Captain George ordered, use the tranquilizer gun to deal with them. One by one, the soldiers took out their special tranquilizer guns, pointed them at the 3 people in the distance, and started shooting. For a moment, the 3 of them were at a disadvantage. If they were not careful, they would be shot, and then they would collapse to the ground unable to move. When they fell into a disadvantage, the audience started talking. These 3 people are so awesome. It's so fast, and there's another one that can also shoot lightning. The sentry robot is going to lose, these mutants are so powerful. The big guy with claws is also very powerful. He actually killed a sentry robot with 1 claw. After praising it, they began to sing bad words. But now they are going to lose, haha. Yes, seeing that they were all in a hurry, I said, how can any mutant defeat so many soldiers? Sure enough. Just when Wolverine, Logan and others were a little desperate, and the audience was very happy to watch, a figure appeared in the camera and was exposed to everyone's vision. The gunfire paused. At this moment, whether it was the soldier who shot, the police officers who assisted, or Captain George and the audience, all their eyes were focused on it. The boy who walked over was wearing white short sleeves and brown shorts, with short brown hair and blue eyes. Although most of his face was covered by a mask, he could still faintly see his handsomeness. Is this the mutant fugitive? He looks very young. Is he really capable of doing so many things? I'm also thinking, this guy doesn't seem to have that kind of ability. The audience, who had not watched the video but had little knowledge of it, started talking about it. In front of the TV, looking at the handsome young man, Professor. Although this feeling was not the first time for them, they didn't think much about it and just thought it was an illusion. But no matter what they thought, being a mutant made them worried about this boy. Why did you come out? Wolverine Logan asked with a frown as he was wary of the Sentinel spiders. Otto and the 2 people next to him also complained a little. They all knew that these people were arresting him, so why didn't they run away? With his teleportation ability, he should be able to leave here, right? And staying here will not only not help them, but may also drag them down. You go, I'll handle it here. Su Yao said, if you continue to take action, you will be in danger. When Wolverine Logan heard this, his frown deepened. He frowned and said, listen boy, don't be brave, you should leave obediently, let us handle it here. Although he was a little surprised, this little guy had used some method to destroy the legs of a mechanical spider, but he still didn't think this little guy could face so many well-armed guys. So at this moment, he reminded the other party that he hoped that the other party would leave here, while he stayed here to delay for some time. At this time, another voice sounded. He's right, you should get out of here. In an instant, one after another looked towards the direction from which the sound came. I saw a burly man wearing a black hood striding towards here. Go quickly, I'll stop you here, the burly man said in a solemn voice. Looking at Sue in front of him, he sighed secretly. His impression of the boy in front of him was still at the beginning. In his eyes, this young man's ability was okay for dealing with a dozen people, but it would be difficult to face dozens of fully armed soldiers. So now, he is also persuading the other party to leave. Wolverine, Logan, and the other 3 were alert at first, then relaxed. Is this here to help? Noticing the confirmation looks they cast, Su Yao nodded. Although Chris covered his face with a black hood, he still recognized the other person from his figure and voice. At this time, Captain George's cold voice came from a distance. Don't even think about leaving today. Following his order, the soldiers started shooting again. Chris's whole body glowed red, forming an energy shield to resist the anesthetic needles. Then he took out a pistol from his waist and started shooting without saying a word. Bang bang, the soldiers fought with several people. It's a pity that although they are very strong, they are at a disadvantage when facing the sentry robots and the anesthesia guns that are hard to guard against. Valentine even got an anesthesia shot and soon fell to the ground softly. The audience watching the live broadcast started talking with gusto. These mutants are very powerful, but it's a pity that they are no longer opponents when facing so many soldiers. Haha, they are about to lose. When they lose, the mutant boy hiding behind won't be able to escape. Captain George and Captain Kenny looked at this scene with satisfied smiles on their faces. This is what you get for opposing us. Captain George sneered, no one of you can escape today. As he spoke, he turned his head and glanced not far away. The soldier received the signal and immediately quietly withdrew from the siege. Suddenly, the sound of sniper rifle shooting suddenly echoed through the area. Not good. The expressions of Logan and others all changed, and they immediately turned to look in the direction of the young man. At this moment, countless viewers watching the live broadcast and people at the scene also stared. Then, they were stunned. They saw that the boy they thought was in trouble was still standing there safe and sound, not looking like he had been shot at all. How can it be? Could it be that everyone guessed wrong? Wasn't that bullet aimed at that boy? Until they saw the sniper in the dark firing again. Boom! The bullets roared, approaching the target at an alarming speed. At this moment, countless eyes focused on the young man. Then they were shocked. The bullet that was fired suddenly disappeared. They were puzzled and shocked here, but Su Yao, who was the target of the sniper, breathed a sigh of relief. As early as when he came out, he tried to get 2 rebound shields in front of him, directly blocking his front. Now the sniper bullet came and was swallowed up by the rebound shield into the void space in an instant. The audience was puzzled. Why did the bullet disappear? Did you miss the target? When everyone was confused, Su Yao said coldly, give it back to you. Before the bullet frozen in the void space could be broken down, Su Yao tried to release it. With a whoosh, the solidified sniper bullet appeared instantly, and then rushed towards the sniper in the distance at the same speed. What? Ah! The sniper screamed and was suddenly shot in the chest by the bullet. Blood splattered everywhere. He clutched his chest and fell to the ground. He was dying. He was about to die. He didn't know if he was shot in the heart. Whether it was a sniper or anyone else, everyone was filled with surprise at this moment. What kind of superpower is this? Rebound bullet. The audience was puzzled here. The faces of Captain George and Captain Kenny in the distance both changed. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Number 37 also has a hidden ability. Captain George was surprised and hurriedly ordered to the soldiers, ignore those mutants, all attack the mutant fugitive. Yes, in an instant, anesthesia needles and bullets were quickly fired in the direction of Su Yao. Rebound shield experience +1. Rebound shield experience +1. Bullets and anesthesia needles disappeared suddenly, and then reappeared suddenly. Although they were well prepared, Captain George and others were still a little unprepared in the face of the bullets and anesthesia needles that were swept away. For a while, screams continued. Wolverine, Logan and others stood aside, all stunned. Not only them, the audience also had their mouths open. Even Magneto and Professor X's eyes flashed with surprise. Before they could calm down, they saw the young man moving. His figure disappeared on the spot, then appeared 10 meters away, and then disappeared again. In 2 flashes, he was extremely close to the position of Captain George and others. Stop him. Captain George frowned. The snipers, who were already on guard, shot at the location where the boy might appear. The remaining 3 sentry robots also attacked now. Black particles. Black particle experience +1. In the surprised eyes of Wolverine, Logan and others, the black particles instantly penetrated the Sentinel spider's body. Even if the opponent's body was extremely strong, it had no effect at this time. In the flash of electric light, the Sentinel spider twitched and collapsed to the ground. Space transfer experience +1. Space transfer experience +1. Black particle experience +1. While dodging, Su Yao did not forget to shoot black particles at the soldiers in the distance. At the same time, he also used a move that had never been shown in front of others. Pillar of spiritual power. Spiritual light pillar experience +1. A pillar of blue energy suddenly rose from the feet of a soldier. Screams rang out, and the soldier was immediately split in half. The scene was extremely bloody. God, help, oh my God! Exclamations came and went. Looking at Lelian, who died tragically, Herman had a dull look on his face. Not long ago, Lelian was chatting and laughing with him, saying that he knew the mutant fugitive very well and was confident that he couldn't escape. Herman murmured to himself, didn't we agree that this mutant can only absorb sunlight, teleport and emit black energy waves? What's the situation now? First it can bounce bullets, and now it uses this blue energy beam. Is this person as easy to deal with as Chief George said? At this moment, Herman roared in his heart, and at the same time became afraid of the young man not far away. What a monster is this? There are so many mutant abilities. Not to mention that he was shocked at this moment. Captain George and Captain Kenny in the distance were also in disbelief. Not to mention that the sentry robot was easily killed, but that guy actually hid his abilities again. Captain Kenny, didn't you say that being able to hide part of your strength has reached the limit of that kid? Why does he have other abilities to hide? Captain George shouted in disbelief. Kenny was also shocked and murmured, God, how could he still hide his strength? Does number 37 have so many superpowers? He couldn't help but feel confused. In the distance, Logan finally understood how the little guy easily took off the robot's legs. What kind of mutant ability is this? Otto and Valentine next to them were in similar moods. However, what shocked them the most was that this mysterious boy had more than one ability. Didn't he say he just teleported? Now what are these? Look what they saw. In just a short time, they saw almost 4 superpowers. What a hell. The boy who was originally very mysterious in their hearts will become even more mysterious now. Next to them, Chris was in a very complicated mood. He couldn't believe it. His impression of the boy not far away was still from when he was fighting those 10 people. Although his strength was okay at that time, he was definitely not as strong as he is now. When did he become so strong? Can mutants improve their strength so quickly? And, doesn't this kid have too many mutant abilities? Chris was confused. While the people at the scene were shocked, the audience watching the live broadcast had different thoughts. Is this mutant so powerful? Oh my god, they are much more powerful than the other mutants. Although those mutants are also very powerful, they are definitely not that strong. How can one person fight against a group of soldiers? I feel like I'm going to lose sleep completely. How could there be such a strong person? The ordinary viewers were shocked, and the mutants watching the live broadcast were also shocked. This guy is so awesome. Why does he have so many abilities? The mutants are filled with confusion, as well as more or less envy and jealousy. Professor X and Magneto also had strange expressions on their faces. Professor, as long as you train a little and master various abilities, you will definitely be a qualified X-Men. As for Magneto, his eyes flashed with admiration now. Seeing this child decisively killing ordinary humans, the more he watched, the more he liked it, and the idea of recruiting became stronger and stronger in his heart. They had different thoughts here. Su Yao, who was fighting, suddenly shouted to Wolverine, Logan and others in the distance, "You leave here first, I will find you later." Logan and the others, who were hiding behind the bunker and panting, were stunned for a moment. Then they realized that staying here might become a drag, so they started to evacuate with the limp Valentine on their backs. George and others in the distance wanted to stop him, but they were powerless. All their attention was attracted by Su Yao. In a short period of time, more than a dozen people died at his hands. Number 37, stop. Captain Kenny shouted gloomily. Su Yao was slightly startled and almost laughed out of anger. You don't even look at what they have done, why do you stop? Suddenly, he fired a black particle in Kenny's direction. Although he narrowly escaped, it still made him break out in a cold sweat. Su Yao frowned slightly and subconsciously wanted to move the space. But before he could move, he saw the guy named George opening his clothes, and there were a row of bombs hanging in the clothes. Obviously, this is to prevent his space transfer sneak attack. As long as he dares to pass by, the other party will dare to detonate a bomb to see if it can kill him. Su Yao frowned slightly. He didn't dare to bet on whether it was the bomb that exploded faster, his spatial transfer, or the other's reaction speed. As long as that George predicts the space shift and detonates the bomb in advance, he might encounter him head-on as soon as he passes by. Su Yao didn't dare to gamble with his life. It would be great if the black particles were level 3. Su Yao sighed. Judging from the current range of 15 meters of secondary black particles, there is really nothing that can be done against that George. If there are level 3 black particles, the range will definitely be increased. By then, Su Yao pondered, thinking a lot in a moment, and even considered whether to try to consume additional light energy in his body to enhance the black particles. However, he was somewhat unsure whether the distance would be increased. What's more, instead of increasing consumption and using black particles, he might as well use the sun to shine. Thinking of the sunshine, Su Yao couldn't help but shook his head. Just by sensing the remaining energy in his body, he knew that it would be impossible to display it. After fighting for such a while, not to mention the consumption of space transfer during the period, just by killing those 10 people, there was not much energy left in his body. After all, the energy in his body is only enough to use the ability more than 40 times. Not to mention that it was still night time, so it would be even more difficult to perform it when the sun was shining. Before he could perform it, he would be sucked into a mummy. Even if he used it, he couldn't kill these people at once. As if to guard against his black particles, this group of people stood relatively far apart, and the range of sunlight was limited, so it was impossible to eliminate them all at once. Don't let your body run out of energy and become a lamb to be slaughtered. It would be great if the light energy in the body is sufficient, or the sunlight is level 2. Su Yao sighed secretly. After sensing the remaining energy, he noticed that Logan and others had left, and he also had the idea of leaving. Black particle experience +1. Black particle experience +1. Before leaving, he fired 2 black particles at the sentinel spiders not far away, completely destroying them to avoid being tracked by them. After estimating the remaining light energy in his body, he fired another black particle at a person and suddenly heard a scream. Black particle experience +1. Before the frightened and angry Captain George and others could do anything, Su Yao's figure disappeared in a blur and appeared 10 meters away. After several flashes, his figure completely disappeared from everyone's sight. George and Kenny looked gloomy, hesitated for a while, and did not choose to order the pursuit. Fark, Captain Kenny gritted his teeth. Let this kid escape again. If that kid hadn't hidden his abilities, how could he have escaped this time? Even he couldn't help but be a little surprised when he thought about his hidden abilities. Is this kid capable of so much? He cursed. Captain George next to him was in the same mood at this moment. He didn't understand why the kid was so different and had so many mutant abilities. I think that kid has reached his limit this time. George showed a very forced smile. Captain Kenny was a little hesitant when he heard this, but he could only nod and sighed. It failed again this time. Let's think about how to explain it to Chief Alessandro. Alas, the expression on Captain George's face was a little ugly. We can't blame them, we can only blame that boy's strength for changing again. At this moment, they heard Irina's words of comfort to the audience not far away. Viewers, it seems that our arrest operation failed this time, but don't be discouraged. The mutant fugitive cannot escape. After all, he is only one person, so how can he compete with the authorities? It won't take much, and he will definitely be caught. Irina showed a sweet smile and tried her best to comfort the audience watching the live broadcast. After this night, some of the audience who were afraid of mutants felt a little more relaxed. Yes, that mutant is powerful, but how can he compare with the government? That is to say, the army did not come out to encircle and suppress him, otherwise he would have been caught. Many people gradually relaxed when they thought of this. Listening to Irina's words of comfort to the audience, Captain George and the two became even more unhappy. Capture mutants properly and tell everyone that mutants are not that scary, but it ended up like this. Isn't it now clear to everyone that mutants are scary? They can't defeat the mutants. Fortunately, Irina's last words saved some of their face, and they also felt that it made sense. After all, how could a person escape their capture? Although you can't catch the other party now, the other party will be caught sooner or later. Some mutants watching the live broadcast were originally happy that their compatriots had escaped, but their hearts twitched when they heard this. Professor X and Magneto had different thoughts at this moment. Professor, space transfer experience +1. Su Yao breathed a sigh of relief after escaping from that area. I'll let you go this time. Thinking of the two leaders, his eyes flashed. Then, sensing the nearly dry light energy in his body, a look of helplessness appeared on his face. The light energy in the body is still not enough, otherwise, those people can be completely eliminated. They suffered heavy losses this time and should be able to gain some development time. Su Yao had some expectations in his eyes. He couldn't wait for the dawn, and then continued to practice his abilities, trying to train the sunshine to the second level, or to upgrade the black particles and other abilities to the third level. If he encounters those people again, he won't even have to run, he can easily kill them. Just as he was filled with anticipation, Su Yao was slightly startled, thinking of Luo Zhen and others who had escaped before. Where did they escape to? After thinking for a long time, he decided to take a walk in the direction of Chris's house. Nearly 40 minutes later, he heard a call not far away. "Hey Kevin, over here," Otto shouted from afar. Su Yao took a closer look and saw a man waving to him in the distance. Logan and others were also there. Dragging his tired body, Su Yao ran over quickly. "Follow me." Otto and the others walked further and further, bringing him to a sewer manhole cover. Otto opened the manhole cover and climbed down first, followed by Logan and others. Su Yao hesitated for a moment, then closed the manhole cover and slowly climbed down. As soon as he went down a short distance, he was surprised to find that there was a cave below. In a dark and humid environment, a simple shelter was built not far away. Otto glanced at Valentine and said, "He and I built this before. It was originally intended to have a place to live when we escaped." At this point, he paused and smiled helplessly, "But it's almost the same now, it just comes in handy." After introducing this place, several people, including Otto, looked at Su Yao with surprise in their eyes. "Who are you?" Valentine, who had regained some consciousness, couldn't help but ask. Wolverine Logan looked amazed. Otto and Chris on the side had similar expressions, looking at him with strange eyes. Su Yao didn't know how to answer. At this time, Wolverine Logan said speechlessly, "You have so many abilities, little guy. You said you can only teleport." He looked at Su Yao with strange eyes. Su Yao was a little embarrassed and reluctantly explained, "I didn't say I could only teleport. I only said I could teleport." Although he was explaining here, Logan and the others still looked at him as if they were looking at a monster. Especially Logan, Otto, and Valentine. Originally, they thought he was very mysterious because of his detailed description of Logan's deeds. After the battle not long ago, they felt that the young man in front of them was extremely mysterious. They were all curious about his identity, origin and abilities. At this time, Chris, who had been silent until now, spoke up, "Is this what you said about hiding some ability? Since we met, you have demonstrated almost 6 abilities until now, which means you have at least 6 abilities." What? The 3 Logans, who originally thought they knew the boy well, were dumbfounded when they heard this. 6 kinds. Not only what you see in the front, but there is also something else hidden. As their expressions changed, they became more and more shocked. "Who is this young man? Why do you know so many secrets? We are both mutants, but have so many mutant abilities." At this moment, a series of questions popped up in their minds. Su Yao didn't know how to answer, so he could only use what he had said to Chris before. "As a mutant you have to be vigilant, so I hid a little bit of my abilities," he said. "Is this still 1 o'clock? Chris asked with a question mark on his forehead. "You kid." Suddenly, he asked, "Boy, are you hiding something else? What level of mutant are you? Level 3 or level 4? Not only did he have this question, even Wolverine Logan couldn't help but have these questions in his mind at this moment. As for level 5, they didn't even think about it. Su Yao coughed a few times, but he still didn't know how to answer this question. He changed the subject and asked, "How long do you plan to stay here?" As he spoke, he glanced at the terrible environment around him. Otto said, "We can't go out until the storm outside subsides. It should take a few days. It's too dangerous to go out now." Logan and others nodded. Su Yao heard this, glanced at them, and suddenly said, "I may leave here tomorrow." "What? Are you crazy?" Otto said in shock. "Aren't you afraid of being caught when you go out like this?" "Listen kid." Wolverine Logan couldn't help it anymore and wanted to persuade him. But before he finished speaking, Su Yao said, "There's no point in me staying here. Even if I don't leave, those people will find this place soon. Besides, it's me they arrested, and it has nothing to do with you." It will be good for you if I leave here. Of course, the most important reason is that it is too dark here, and the sunlight can hardly shine in. How can he improve his strength without sunlight? If you really stay here and don't get much improvement in strength, then you are really seeking death. After some persuasion, several people saw that he had made up his mind and could only look at him with complicated eyes. Time passed quickly and the next day soon came. Absorbing a little sunlight coming in from the manhole cover, the energy in Su Yao's body began to recover. 10 minutes later, nodding to Logan and others, Su Yao disappeared into the sewer in a blur. Watching his figure disappear, several people's eyes showed concern. After what happened yesterday, the arrest of Kevin will definitely be stricter next, and I don't know if he can escape. In a remote alley, Su Yao's figure suddenly appeared here. After taking a quick glance around to make sure there was no one else, he left here in a hurry. When choosing a new hideout, he saw how powerful those people were. On the streets, people were staring at them at regular intervals, seemingly looking for suspicious people. Su Yao frowned and could only choose to rely on space transfer to move. Space transfer experience +1. Space transfer experience +1. It took him more than half an hour to find a place that was both hidden and exposed to sunlight. After the energy in his body was restored to full, he heard the long-lost prompt. Light energy +1. Light energy +1. Light energy +1. Taking advantage of the time to collect light energy, Su Yao tried something. Rebound shield experience +1. Rebound shield experience +1. In the blink of an eye, 2 invisible rebound shields appeared around him. When Su Yao tried to summon the third rebound shield, he couldn't help but frown. Failed. He has a feeling that the third rebound shield may not appear until the rebound shield reaches level 3. I originally thought about using a few more rebound shields to protect the whole body tightly, but it seems I thought too much. After testing the rebound shield, he turned his attention to the other abilities. Soon, his eyes were fixed on the sun. Ability: Sunshine 23 100ths level 1. First upgrade the sunlight to level 2, and then upgrade the black particles to level 3. By then, the range of sunlight and the range of the black particles should be improved. The next second, a bright light appeared on his body, accompanied by a prompt sound. Experience of sunshine +1. Experience of sunshine +1. Experience of sunshine +1. While Su Yao was working hard to improve his strength, in the 23rd base, after dealing with the injured, George and the two, who had not slept all night, knocked anxiously on the door of the base director Alessandro's office. Come in. Alessandro's deep voice sounded. Captain George and the other two walked in nervously. They were startled as soon as they entered, and were a little panicked by the eyes of the person in charge, Alessandro. Alessandro, who was sitting on a chair, wearing a black and white suit with a slicked back hair, had a gloomy face and looked at the two people who walked in with sharp eyes. Failed again? He asked gloomily. Captain George took a deep breath and nodded reluctantly. You two are really useless. You brought so many people with you, and you can't even catch a mere number. 37. Do you know how many people have called me during this time? You two losers. Alessandro slammed the table angrily and threw a water glass at them while scolding them. With a bang, the water glass hit George, causing him great pain, but he did not dare to make a sound. Seeing that the officer's anger had subsided, Captain Kenny quickly explained the reason. Sir, something is very wrong with No. 37. Alessandro motioned for him to continue. Captain Kenny quickly gave a brief explanation of the battle process, as well as the fact that number 37 had improved in strength and even showed 2 more mutant abilities. What did you say? Alessandro's face showed a look of shock. Are you sure? Alessandro asked in surprise. Okay. Captain Kenny nodded solemnly. Number 37 does have 2 more abilities, one can reflect bullets, and the other can emit blue energy beams. Hearing this, Alessandro touched his well-groomed beard and murmured in surprise, that little brat, is it possible that there is strength and ability hidden in front of you? Even though he thought so, he still felt something was wrong. No. He still has too many mutant abilities. It's not like he hasn't thought about whether these abilities are derived from a certain mutant ability, such as telepathy and mental control derived from mental abilities. However, the superpowers currently displayed by the kid don't seem to be related at all. Forget it, just think that the kid has mutated and having a few more abilities is no big deal. After all, that kid has a lot of abilities, but none of them are particularly strong. Even if he has more, what will happen? In Alessandro's eyes, as long as he was willing to pay the price, he could easily get rid of the brat and it was not a big threat. Alessandro couldn't figure it out, so he stopped thinking about it. He looked at George and George sternly and said, "This cannot cover up the result that you failed again. Not only did you fail to arrest anyone this time, you also lost many people." Hearing what he said, Captain Kenny knew that he would definitely face punishment next, and said hurriedly, "Sir Alessandro, please give us another chance. I've tested that kid to his limits. If I try it again, I'll definitely be able to catch him." Captain George and Alessandro on the side were slightly startled when they heard this. "Oh, Captain Kenny, what do you say?" George asked in surprise. Noticing their gazes, Captain Kenny smiled slightly and said, "I didn't understand it when number 37 escaped earlier, but now I have figured it out. At that time, number 37 killed almost half of our people. With his ability, it shouldn't be too difficult to kill the rest." In the end, that kid didn't continue to attack, but left. At this point, he laughed. "You mean?" Captain George's eyes lit up as he thought of something. Captain Kenny said firmly, "Yes, I suspect that boy has reached his limit and cannot continue to use his abilities." After hearing what he said, Captain George and Alessandro thought about it seriously and approved of his words. Indeed, judging from the brat's crisp and clean killing attitude, if he had the ability to continue taking action, he would definitely not show mercy and would definitely kill the remaining people on the spot. In other words, he had almost reached his limit and had to retreat. "What you mean is," Alessandro frowned slightly. Captain Kenny said firmly, "As long as we send more people to encircle and suppress us next time, that number 37 will definitely not be able to escape. This kid has been tested to his limits. If you plan, he won't be able to fly away even if he has wings." After hearing this, Alessandro felt that what he said made sense. After hesitating for a moment, he decided to give them another chance. He nodded. Seeing that he agreed, Captain Kenny and Captain George were relieved. At this time, Captain George suddenly thought of something and asked, "Sir, can you apply for a few giant sentry robots?" Captain Kenny's eyes lit up. Hearing this, Alessandro shook his head and said, "The giant sentry robot is still under development. Some key points have not yet been broken through. There is not even a finished product yet." George and the two were a little disappointed. After taking a look at them, I knew that they were a little unsure and wanted to gain some chips. He ordered, "This time you go to base number 2 and dispatch a mutant named Hound. He can help you find number 37. In addition, number 1 and number 5 in the base will also go with you this time." When he mentioned number 1 and number 5, he couldn't help but show a proud expression on his face. George and the two were stunned. The Hounds knew what the mutant was capable of just by hearing the name, and they were not surprised. What made them stunned was number 1 and no. 5. Thinking of number 1 and number 5, their eyes showed wonder and fear. Number 5 possesses super speed, self-healing and energy shock. Number 1, who has a metallized body, enhanced strength, enhanced 5 senses, and pulse interference. These two guys are monsters, humanoid weapons. It's a monster developed by their base. It can be seen from the numbers that the power possessed by these two people is much more terrifying than that of No. 37. From the beginning, Kenny commented that compared to number 37, these two people can be regarded as mutants, possessing formidable power. Moreover, number 1 is also known as the nemesis of mutants. With his pulse interference, not only will electronic devices fail in his presence, but even mutants' abilities will be disrupted to the point of failure when faced with him. So far, they have never seen an undisturbed mutant. With this guy, number 37 won't be able to run away even if he wants to. Facing him, his abilities will be disabled once he comes face to face. Without ability, 37 is just an ordinary person. How can he resist then? After figuring it out, Kenny and the two couldn't help but have confident smiles on their faces. Captain Kenny praised, "Compared with number 1 and no. 5, number 37 is really not worth mentioning. With them, we will definitely not fail this time. You can't blame him for being so confident. Even if you don't mention the ability of pulse interference, the strength of number 1 and number 5 alone is not comparable to that of No. 37. It would take a while for 37 to deal with a dozen of them when facing them, but numbers 1 and 5 could probably deal with them neatly within a minute. Moreover, they have already tested that kid's limit. Plus number 1 and number 5, how can they lose this time? Captain Kenny couldn't even imagine it. Before driving away the two men, Alessandro gave them 5 more sentinel spiders to assist in the capture. After that, he stayed in the office, ready to wait for the good news. While they were discussing matters, both ordinary prisoners and mutant prisoners in experimental base number 23 began to whisper to each other. Hey, have you heard that number 37 has not been caught yet? Not only was he not caught, he also killed many people sent by the base. I heard there were more than a dozen people. Inmates who got the news from the guards shared the news. No, I haven't been caught yet. How is that possible? Is number 37 so powerful? I've seen number 37 before, he shouldn't be that strong, right? What kind of mutant power does he have that can kill so many people? Chapter 31. Whether they were ordinary prisoners or mutants, their faces showed shock. They were still chatting before, betting on when number 37 would be caught. Most of them thought that they would be caught in a day or two, but the result. Now tell them that the person they were gloating about and talking about with relish not only escaped, but also killed a group of people who were chasing him. So strong. How can it be so strong? Nearly 100 prisoners were in disbelief and felt incredible. At this time, a black man named Claude shouted, "Are you kidding? 37 has such ability. You're not going to make fun of us, are you? I, who is number 20, dare not say that I can kill a dozen guys with guns." When the prisoners heard this, they all nodded in agreement, thinking that what he said made sense. So in an instant, many questioning eyes turned to the person who revealed the news. Even the freckled young man who had talked to Suyao now felt that what this man said was untrustworthy. You have to be reasonable when you lie. Seeing being questioned, Gafgli became anxious and said, "I swear I never lied." As he spoke, he explained, "I heard that it was because number 37 had more than 5 mutant abilities that he was able to kill those who were chasing him." After the words fell, the scene became quiet, and everyone had a look of disbelief on their faces. At this moment, they felt that this person was not crazy because he could say such a thing. More than 5 abilities, how can this be? Not to mention the ordinary prisoners who didn't believe it, the mutants even scorned it and thought it was impossible. How could someone have more than 5 abilities and still be a mutant? We are both mutants, how can someone be so special? But their disbelief did not last long, and was soon broken by another person who asked. The man specifically asked the prison guard with whom he had a good relationship and got the same answer. For a moment, everyone was in shock. At the same time, they are envious and jealous. However, their mood did not last long, and soon disappeared with the spread of another news, and turned into gloating and pity. The two monsters number 1 and number 5, who were locked up in a special prison room and had been severely brainwashed, were actually planning to be sent out to hunt down number 37. It's over on the 37th. These two guys are monsters, no one can be their opponent. Then number 5 is a monster. He can't be killed at all. Even if his head is broken, he won't die. The one number 1 is even more disgusting. When it comes to number 1, the mutant prisoners basically have expressions of disgust in their eyes. They are both afraid and eager to kill that guy. They really don't want to experience the feeling of not being able to use their abilities again during pulse interference. After knowing that the two of them were dispatched, the prisoners began to bet on how long it would take for number 37 to be caught. Most of them bet for 3 days, and a few bet for 1 week. Almost no one thought that the other party could escape. Some people even think that the fragile guy number 37 will die in the hands of number 1 and No. 5. While the prisoners were talking about each other, Su Yao, who was far away in a remote corner, was working hard to practice the sunshine. Sunshine experience +1. Sunshine experience +1. Sunshine experience +1. With practice again and again, the sun-drenched experience bar is improving at a neither fast nor slow speed. The sun gradually set and the sky became dark. Su Yao stopped and took a look at the panel. Ability. Sunshine 98 100ths level 1. Su Yao was surprised at first, then frowned. 2 o'clock left. After sensing the energy in his body, he hesitated. Judging from the energy in the body, it can castrate the castrated version of the sun twice more, but it's just that after I finish using it, there won't be much light energy left in my body. If I encounter someone who is chasing me then. Su Yao shook his head and threw the idea of upgrading out of his mind. Anyway, there are only 2 left, just wait until tomorrow morning. Thinking of this, Su Yao's eyes showed a look of expectation. He stepped away from this situation and looked for a secluded residence. The night passed quickly without any incident. Light energy +1. Light energy +1. Light energy +1. Drowsily, Su Yao was woken up by a notification sound in his ear. Feeling the full energy in his body, he couldn't wait to perform the castrated version of Sunshine. Experience of Sunshine +1. Experience of Sunshine +1. As the last prompt sounded, Su Yao immediately felt a change in himself. Ability: Sunshine 0/500, level 2. A familiar warmth flowed around his body, and something seemed to have changed while itching all over his body. When that feeling subsided, Su Yao suddenly felt that it became easier to control the special sunlight shining in the sun. Looking up at the sunny sky, his heart moved. The next moment, the sunlight within nearly 20 meters was slightly distorted. Su Yao quickly stopped. Almost 20 meters. Su Yao was a little disappointed. Of course, although he was a little disappointed, compared to the sunshine at the previous level, he could still barely accept it. At the first level, it can cover most of the room at most, but now it can cover 20 meters, which is pretty good. Moreover, these 20 meters are based on the energy currently in his body. The limit of level 2 sunshine is not 20 meters, but the energy in his body drags him down, so he cannot use sunshine at full strength. When the black particles reach level 3 and the energy in the body increases, how far can the range of sunlight increase? Su Yao Yuan looked forward to it. Compared with the previous level 1 and level 2, level 3 is a qualitative change, and the energy added will definitely be more. As for now, sensing the gradually replenishing energy in his body, Su Yao silently made an estimate after all the energy was restored. In addition to the sunshine, other abilities can be used almost 50 times. If it is a first-level ability, it can even be used more than 100 times and fight with all one's strength for 2 or 3 minutes. Thinking of the first-level abilities, Su Yao glanced at the panel and found that there were no first-level abilities on it, and all of them had been upgraded to the second level. Glancing at the barren energy points on the panel, he focused on the unlocking progress. Unlocking progress 79%. I wonder if 80% can gain new abilities. Floating flight or something else. Su Yao had expectations in his heart. Will the abilities you get become more powerful the further you go? With this in mind, he did not continue to practice his abilities and planned to increase the unlocking progress to 80% first. Under the sunlight, prompts sounded in his ears. Light energy +1. 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 As prompts sounded, the energy points on the panel rose slowly. After a while, the energy points reached more than 900. Energy points. 904. After glancing at it, Su Yao tried to add it to the unlocking progress. In his expectant eyes, the unlocking progress jumped to 80%. Unlocking progress 80%. However, to his disappointment, he didn't hear the sound of a new ability. No, Su Yao frowned. It seems to be 85%. Su Yao was extremely sure. Then he glanced at the cleared energy points and sighed regretfully. To increase it to 85%, it is estimated that at least 8,000 energy points are needed, which will take a lot of time. After a while, he decided to improve his abilities first, upgrade the black particles to level 3, brush up the light energy in his body, and improve his overall strength. As for the acquisition of new abilities, just postpone it for a while. Although, he is somewhat looking forward to the abilities he will acquire later. According to his idea, the closer you go to the back, the more special your awakened abilities should be. Maybe, once the imitation reaches 100%, there will be unimaginable changes. Su Yao thought with some anticipation. Black particle experience +1. Black particle experience +1. Black particle experience +1. Ability, black particles 6500ths level 2. While he was practicing hard on black particles, a group of people stared at him. The top of the 6th floor of a hotel. Boss, do we really want to take on this mission? That mutant is a bit difficult to deal with. If we really face him, I'm afraid. A strong man in blue clothes with a scar on his face hesitantly asked the man next to him with a fierce look, broad shoulders and strong muscles. Albert glanced at his younger brother Jack and said disdainfully, "What are you afraid of? He is just a mutant and not a god. As long as we kill him with a sniper rifle from a distance, will he be able to react?" Hearing what Boss Albert said, Jack still hesitated. At this time, Albert said with a heavy voice, "And we have accepted the task. If we fail to complete it, we will be punished." Jack trembled when he heard this. Thinking of the consequences of failure, he quickly shook his head to throw away the retreating thoughts in his mind, and then a fierce look appeared in his eyes. Immediately, greed appeared in his eyes. Not long ago, a reward appeared on the dark web. Whoever kills the person on the reward list can get $3 million. This is $3 million. With this money, myself and Boss Albert can live happily for a long time. And the person with the reward on the reward list was the 16-year-old boy named Kevin. Although the other party was very young, for the $3 million, they could only send the boy to heaven out of pity. Moreover, that kid is not as simple as he appears on the surface. Not to mention the mutant abilities introduced in the reward list, just what they saw from a distance not long ago was enough to make them shudder. In summary, a mutant child with terrifying murderous abilities. Glancing at a hidden corner in the distance, Jack's eyes flashed with excitement. They spent a lot of effort to find this guy. If they hadn't been present in the previous battle and had some luck, they might not have been able to find this guy yet. This kid is really good at hiding. It took our boss a lot of effort. After complaining, he said excitedly, "It's not too late, it will be harvest time soon." Boss, you were right. Isn't he just a mutant? He is not a god. He will die as long as he is shot. As long as you use a sniper rifle, you can easily kill that kid, and then you will get $3 million. The two took out the parts of the sniper rifle from their backpacks and started assembling them on the spot. While they were assembling, Jack, who was observing the target through the telescope, suddenly realized something was wrong. It seems that another group of people has set their sights on the target. How can this work? Boss, look, there are 3 people coming over there. What should I do? They seem to be here to kill that kid too. If they kill him, Jack said anxiously. Albert was slightly startled, stretched out his thick arm, grabbed the telescope from Jack's hand and looked into the distance. He saw the 3 people walking outside the kid's hiding place, opening and closing their mouths as if they were shouting something. Albert frowned, then relaxed, and said with a smile, "Let them bite each other. When both of them are injured, we will take over." After hearing what the boss said, Jack was no longer anxious. His eyes lit up and his heart was filled with anticipation and excitement, as if he had foreseen this scene. "Far away. Come out, we know you're in there," a thick voice echoed. Hearing the sound outside, Su Yao was startled and walked out of the hiding place in confusion. "Who are you?" Looking at the combination of 2 white men and 1 black woman in front of him, Su Yao asked with implicit vigilance. A black woman in her 30s with a somewhat ferocious face stood up, looked at him ferociously, and asked, "We are members of the underground mutant organization. You killed Kalpana, right?" As soon as the words fell, Su Yao understood everything instantly. Before he could say anything, the black woman sneered and said, "Don't deny it, we know it's you. Vicious child, just follow us back and accept the punishment from the leader." As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly opened her mouth and let out a piercing scream. Buzz. The sound wave formed by the sound wave rushed towards Su Yao at the speed of sound, and even if he reacted quickly enough, he would be hit in an instant. The piercing whistling echoed in his ears, making him deaf for a moment. He only felt that other sounds around him disappeared, leaving only a buzzing sound. Space transfer experience +1. In less than a second, his figure blurred and disappeared instantly. He escaped from the main range of the sound wave and appeared 10 meters away. The location where he left was constantly under the impact of sound waves. In the dusty sky, a wall trembled and fell to pieces. It's obvious how terrifying this sound wave is. 10 meters away, Su Yao staggered as soon as he appeared, covering his ears that were still buzzing and even leaking a little blood. Murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Suddenly, he saw two white men in the distance. One of them had a red light all over his body, and a large amount of something similar to magma oozed from his skin. The surrounding air was distorted by heat. And the other figure flashed and disappeared in an instant. Su Yao, who was already on guard, instantly felt alarm bells ringing in his heart, and subconsciously used space transfer again. Space transfer experience +1. As he disappeared, the missing white young man appeared where he was. At this time, he held a sharp dagger in his hand and made a stabbing motion. Well, you ran away. Hyrbin looked surprised. Speed 1. Su Yao frowned at first, then breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, this guy's speed is not too fast, not as fast as Quicksilver or the Flash, otherwise he might be able to send him away with just one face-to-face encounter. With his current strength, he is really not at the point where he can easily face the speedster. Even Apocalypse, the ancestor of mutants, has no way to deal with Kuayan's speed. If it weren't for his self-healing ability and his fast neural reaction speed, which locked Kuayan's feet with his ability, he might have been killed by the opponent alone. Of course, although this guy is not as good as the Quicksilver guy, his speed is also very fast. It should be close to the speed of sound, but his shots are slower. Su Yao stared closely at the opponent's movements from the corner of his eye. As long as the opponent made a move, he would immediately use space transfer. He was not idle either. These three people caught him off guard. If he didn't take action now, he would be stupid. Do you really think he is so easy to bully? The next second, his figure disappeared in a blur. Space transfer experience +1. Space transfer experience +1. After 2 consecutive spatial shifts, he appeared next to the black woman. The moment he appeared, his fingers just touched the other person's chest. God's finger. God finger experience +1. Boom. In an instant, the mirror space shattered, the black woman screamed, and a big hole appeared in her chest. The next second, she flew out completely. At the same time, a shrill scream came from her mouth, and both Su Yao and others subconsciously covered their ears. Waves of sound swept around, and amid the buzz, buildings trembled and collapsed to the ground. Faintly, you can still hear the screams of the innocent people who were killed by Chiu. Space transfer experience +1. Space transfer experience +1. 2 figures of Su Yao flickered in the distance, looking at the sound waves raging in the distance with lingering fear. Dust filled the sky, and various buildings collapsed. It's really terrifying. I didn't expect that the black woman could explode into this scene before she died. Was her ability out of control? Su Yao knew very well that sometimes mutants were so unreasonable. They were usually weak, but if they lost control, their danger index would immediately soar. This woman's ability was already good, but now that she lost control, it made sense to explode with such great power. But no matter how much I say, this woman is still dead. As long as it has no self-healing ability or defensive ability, it can be directly pulled away and cremated if it is hit by the divine finger. Far away, Jack and Jack, who were watching this scene with binoculars, swallowed subconsciously. Is this too scary? Looking at the sound waves roaring in the distance, houses collapsing or people flying backwards with blood spurting out, the two of them shivered subconsciously. If this had happened at the scene, the two of them would not have been able to ascend to heaven on the spot. Mutants are indeed monsters and freaks. Jack thought in fear. Especially the young man who killed a mutant in an understatement made them even more frightened. Of course, the outcome is still hard to say. Although one person died, there is a speedster on the other side. If someone doesn't pay attention, that perverted kid will also die. Battlefield. Ing. The 2 white men looked at Yinch, who flew to the wall and seemed to be dying. Their angry eyes immediately looked at Su Yao, who was not far away. I'm going to kill you. Marco roared. Lava surged all over his body, and a large ball of lava was thrown out by him in an instant. Looking at the flying magma, Su Yao's face was calm, and his figure disappeared in a flash. Space transfer experience +1. Black particle experience +1. Black particle experience +1. Black particle experience +1. 3 jet black particles appeared, and the finished glyphs flew towards Marco like bullets. Unable to dodge, Marco was hit by a black particle on his arm, and immediately lost a piece of flesh. Space transfer experience +1. From the corner of his eye, he saw the speedster disappear, and Su Yao's figure disappeared instantly. Spiritual light pillar experience +1. There was no attack on the speedster, and the next second a spiritual light beam suddenly appeared from under Marco's feet. A scream was heard, and Marco flew backwards as blood flew out. Marco. Kurban's eyes were red and he stared at the boy not far away with hatred. Just wait for me. Kurban's figure blurred and disappeared from the spot. Space transfer experience +1. Su Yao appeared on the roof and unexpectedly found that the guy did not attack him, but chose to leave. Are you withdrawing now? Even though he was surprised, Su Yao didn't chase him. Not to mention the question of whether he can catch him. Let's just say that even if he focused his full attention, he could only see the afterimage of the guy's movement. If he wasn't paying attention, he would not notice it. Even if there was a space transfer, he would definitely not be able to catch up with the guy. Moreover, when facing a speedster, Su Yao did not dare to get too close. Even in the battle just now, he did not dare to get too close to the guy, leaving time for reaction. Otherwise, if he got too close, even if the space was transferred, he would be worried about being killed by the opponent's backhand. Unless he awakens his self-healing ability, then he can be reckless, just like Uncle Wolverine and Deadpool Wade. Thinking about it, Su Yao was not careless, and his figure disappeared from the place in a flash. Space transfer experience +1. Space transfer experience +1. Far away, seeing the mutant boy disappear, Jack put down his binoculars, swallowed, and asked, "Boss, do we still want to take action?" Looking at the mess in the distance, as if the battlefield had been plowed by flying bullets, he broke into cold sweat on his back. When Albert heard this, he gritted his teeth and said, "What are you afraid of? Isn't it just a mutant? As long as you can't react." As he spoke, his voice weakened, and he obviously realized that if they didn't kill the other party immediately and wait for the other party to react, what would happen to them? Let's go after that guy. In the end, Albert still couldn't hold back his desire for $3 million. After calling Jack, he packed up his things and ran in the direction where the boy left. When Su Yao and the two people left here, a series of sirens sounded in an experimental base more than 10 kilometers away. Quick, we can't let that symbiote escape. A team of well-armed security guards anxiously rushed to the aisle not far away. Bang bang bang, countless bullets were fired towards the front. In front of him, a middle-aged man with a dull expression was running crazily. His figure was not as agile as a human being, but like a cheetah. Puff 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 puff, bullets penetrated the flesh one by one. These humans. A hoarse and violent voice came from the middle-aged man. Amidst the howling wind brought by the running, there were also faint voices of complaints. What a weak carbon-based life form. These human beings are all extremely weak. Are there no stronger ones? Are they all so fragile? The roar of gunfire, accompanied by noisy footsteps, echoed throughout the area. Under the bright sunshine, bang bang bang, bullets pierced the air one after another, hitting the figure running ahead at the speed of sound. However, although many shots were fired, none of them had any effect, even if they hit the head. The middle-aged man withstood the fire and escaped from the base at a speed faster than ordinary people. Oh shit. Looking at the middle-aged men who were gradually disappearing, the security guards armed with firearms had ugly expressions on their faces, and some of them even cursed. For a moment, the Life Foundation became lively. A car sped out of the place and chased the escaping man. Half an hour later, weak humans. The controlling man rode the stolen motorcycle, Venom's hoarse voice full of complaints. He could feel that this body had almost reached its limit and would die soon. By then, he will have to crawl out of this body, and then, if he can't find a new host to stay in, he will die soon if he can't adapt to the Earth's environment. Not wanting to die, he moved quickly. The body, which was as dark as a ball of mud, was split into two, with the larger one occupying 90% and the smaller one occupying 10%. The motorcycle was traveling at top speed, and the sound of howling wind was endless. The body that occupied 90% of the body squirmed and seeped out from the sluggish middle-aged man's chest. Then, looking at the right moment, he jumped up and flew towards a strong man in his 30s or 40s on the sidewalk not far away. "Oh shit, what is this?" Eddie, who was walking in the aisle and was forced by his boss to go to the Life Foundation for an interview, saw a black thing flying towards him and immediately opened his mouth and cursed. Before he could shake off the sticky stuff on his body, it seeped into his body from his skin and disappeared without a trace. What the hell? Eddie Brock was shocked and wanted to dissect himself. He searched vigorously on his body, but found nothing. When he was panicking, a hoarse voice came from inside him. "Shut up." Ignoring Eddie, who was stunned, Venom scolded and sighed secretly. "I don't think there is a better body than this." After parasitizing this human being, he was surprised to find that this human being fit very well with him. He has come to Earth so many times to live as a parasite, but he has never experienced a compatibility comparable to the man in front of him. Like the previous human experimental subjects, even if he did nothing, those people would eventually die because their organs could not supply what they needed. As for this guy named Eddie, he was very satisfied with his body, and he didn't think he would find anything better. Venom was satisfied here, while Eddie, who was possessed, was panicking. As for the middle-aged man riding a motorcycle, he was still speeding on the motorcycle at this moment. He will lure Venom's pursuers away. As for the bit of body left in that person's body, he didn't care. I guess he will eventually be found by people from the Life Foundation and locked up in a laboratory, right? He was thinking about how to communicate with this human named Eddie, a middle-aged man 2 kilometers away who was already surrounded by people from the Life Foundation. Bang bang bang. All kinds of bullets and anesthetic bombs were poured towards the opponent. Soon, the middle-aged man fell to the ground. "I got him," a man in black said into the intercom. "Bring him back." A surprised voice came from the intercom. "Receive." A group of men in black carried the middle-aged man to the car and rushed towards the Life Foundation. However, they were walking in such a hurry that they didn't notice that just when the middle-aged man fell to the ground, a thumb-sized black liquid flowed out from his fingertips and rolled down to the manhole cover next to him. In the dark sewer, Venom was squirming, and I felt anxious. He could feel that if he didn't find the host quickly, this weak body would die soon. He doesn't want to die. From the moment they separated, although there was still contact, he was already an independent individual. Soon, he sensed something and jumped onto a gray mouse with a leap. The mouse's mung bean-sized eyes were flashing with a strange light, and the figure was running quickly in the sewer. "Find a suitable host as soon as possible. You will regret it, I will make you regret abandoning me." While the commotion here was going on over the symbiote issue, Su Yao, a few kilometers away, was practicing black particles. Black particle experience +1. Black particle experience +1. Black particle experience +1. After practicing for an hour, Su Yao suddenly stopped. A notification sound suddenly appeared in his mind. In the corner that you can't see, the hidden hunter is quietly targeting you, and seems to be preparing to kill you. Su Yao's expression changed slightly, and he subconsciously made a spatial shift. Space transfer experience +1. As soon as the figure appeared 10 meters away, he looked towards where he originally stood. Poof! I saw a long and narrow bullet shot deeply into the ground. Another sniper. Su Yao's face darkened. The next second, he looked in the direction where the bullet came from. 200 meters away, there is a 3-story building. Space transfer experience +1. Bang! He left his position again. By this time, he had basically guessed the sniper's location. Just as he rushed towards the building, the 2 jacks who were hiding in the building also fell into panic. "What to do, boss? It's over, that kid found out. Run." Albert didn't even want the sniper rifle, turned around and ran away. Jack was slightly startled and followed hurriedly. A few minutes later, the 2 of them were running in a dark corridor. "It should be okay, right?" After looking around and finding no one following him, Jack breathed a sigh of relief. Unexpectedly, at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of them. "Who are you? Who sent you to assassinate me?" Su Yao asked in a deep voice. As he spoke, he raised his right hand, and dark particles floated in his hand, as if they were about to be launched in the next second. "Wait, let's talk." Jack panicked and said hurriedly, "The 2 of us are killers, and we took over the mission from the dark web to assassinate you." "Darknet, Su Yao was slightly stunned. He was naturally no stranger to the dark web, having vaguely heard of it in his previous life. Under the bright internet, there is also the unknown dark network, where people often do illegal transactions. This assassination was probably caused by someone placing an order on the dark web, and then being picked up by these two unlucky guys. Do you know the employer's information? Su Yao asked with a frown. Jack shook his head. Su Yao pondered, thought carefully, and suddenly had a suspect. Did someone from the experimental base place the order? As for who it is, he doesn't bother to think about it. There are just a few, and there will always be a chance to take revenge later. He moved his fingers slightly, and just when he was about to send a black particle to each of the two people, a small sound came from not far away. Su Yao turned around and looked doubtfully. I saw an orange kitten meowing close to me. Su Yao didn't pay attention at first and was ready to continue his previous actions. But before he could take action, something strange appeared on the orange cat that made his expression change slightly. A dark shadow flashed across the orange cat's yellow eyes, and then a small ball of dark liquid quickly seeped out from the orange cat's forehead. Under Su Yao's gaze from the corner of his eye, the thing made a leap and jumped onto his right hand. Su Yao was shocked at first, then quickly reacted and understood what this thing was. Venom. In his mind, he quickly recalled the memory of this thing. Alien organisms, a kind of symbiote, need to rely on other organisms to survive on Earth. After merging with the host, it can explode with amazing power. The more famous one is that he once possessed Spider-Man and formed a Venom suit, which turned Spider-Man Peter into a black man. Of course, there are several versions of Venom, and he is not sure whether the Venom here is the one that possesses Spider-Man. But no matter which one it is, getting involved with this thing will not only have advantages but also disadvantages. Su Yao didn't dare to get involved in this stuff easily. Seeing the venom jumping to his hand and even seeping into his arm, he couldn't help but feel anxious, and subconsciously drove the light energy in his body to encircle and suppress it. Ah! There was a faint scream from his arm, and then venom seeped out of his arm. Jack, who saw this scene from a distance, were stunned. As for the venom forced out by the light energy, his heart was filled with shock. Originally, he thought he just found an ordinary human being, but he didn't expect, wasn't he? At the beginning, he just had the mentality of using what he could, and didn't think much about it when he jumped on this young man. He just thought that it would be useful for a while, but in the end, when he entered the young man's body, he was completely shocked. He felt unprecedented strength. This young man's body is different from ordinary people. Not only does his cells contain mysterious and unknown factors, but there is also a special energy attached to his flesh and blood. There is a smell of sunshine, giving him a warm feeling. Of course, this was before the other party activated the energy. After the activation, he only felt a burning sensation, forcing him to leave the young man's body. However, even after being integrated for a short period of time, he felt an unprecedented sense of comfort. That feeling made him nostalgic and made him crazy. The feeling of power all over his body made him want to stop. Venom's heart was filled with urgency, and he once again had the idea of rushing in. But before he could take action, Su Yao frowned and said, "Venom." Venom moved for a moment, with a surprised look on his face. He transformed into a small head and asked, "Human, how do you know my name?" "Life from aliens," Su Yao said to himself, "a symbiosis." The old man's background was revealed, and Venom's little face was filled with confusion and shock. He swore that he absolutely did not know this boy, and this boy should not know the terms Venom and Symbiote. Not far away, Jack were stunned, listening to what Su Yao said. Their eyes subconsciously looked at the dark liquid. Alien life. Fark. What's going on with this world? The two looked in disbelief. At this time, "Human, how do you know so much? Who are you?" Venom asked in surprise. Su Yao said calmly, "I not only know you, but I also know many things about the symbiote, but don't worry about how I know it. Please leave my body now, or don't blame me for being rude." Venom, who was originally shocked when he heard the message, quickly recovered and shouted anxiously, "No, human, don't drive me away. I am Venom, I am a symbiote, come to symbiosis with me, human." Su Yao shook his head. Venom became even more anxious. Please, the two of us must be the strongest and most powerful together. No one can defeat us. We will be kings. Stay away from me. Su Yao frowned slightly, grabbed the sticky thing, and threw it far away. Who would have thought that as soon as it was thrown out, this thing would crawl back like a licking dog, squirming crazily. No, don't abandon me, please human. Venom's little face was full of pleading. Looking at the venom that clung to him like brown candy and begged, Su Yao felt helpless. If this guy shows aggression, he will definitely deal with him as soon as possible, but with this dog-licking look, it is a little difficult for him to deal with it. He temporarily diverted his attention and turned his attention to Jack and the two. No, no, don't kill us. Seeing that he was looking over, Jack hurriedly begged for mercy. Su Yao glanced at the two people who were full of fear, but did not listen to their pleas for mercy. Since they had already developed a murderous intention towards him and wanted to kill him to get the reward, then they couldn't blame others for their deaths. Everything was their own fault. The next second, in the horrified and surprised gazes of Jack and Venom, black waves appeared on his hand. Black particle experience +1. Black particle experience +1. 2 black particles rushed out and rushed towards Jack and the two like bullets. The two people who had been alert for a long time noticed something was wrong and immediately jumped to the side, avoiding the 2 black particles. Black particle experience +1. No matter how much they could hide, they were unable to escape the next 4 consecutive rounds of black particles, and were pierced through the chest one after another. The blood was flowing, and before he died, Albert said unwillingly, "You will come to hell to find us soon. Even if you kill us, it won't end. Your bounty will continue to rise, and stronger people will come to find you. I hope you don't run into the top killers, otherwise." Albert laughed miserably and stopped breathing. As for Jack next to him, after shouting the vicious curse, he followed in his footsteps not long after. Seeing that the two people were dead, Venom hurriedly said, "Human, you don't need to care about what they say. As long as you merge with me, everything will be solved. We can tear apart anyone who stands in front of us." Finally, his little black face was full of pleading, "Please, human being, merge with me, we must be the strongest." Listening to the nagging of Venom in his ears, Su Yao had a headache. It's not good to eliminate this guy, just throw it away, he will probably continue to haunt him. After thinking for a moment, he finally decided to discuss it with the Venom in front of him. "It's impossible to completely coexist with you," Su Yao said slowly. Venom's little black face was full of disappointment, and just when he was about to continue begging, words that surprised him appeared. "However, my right hand can give you symbiosis, if you agree and can do it." Su Yao looked at the poison in front of him with very calm eyes. He said this after careful consideration. After all, the Venom is not all bad, and the benefits of being symbiotic with him are also obvious. If only one arm could be symbiotic, he would still be able to agree to it. As for the symbiosis of the entire body and complete symbiosis, Su Yao directly denied this. If it were a complete symbiosis, it would be really difficult for him to deal with the Venom causing damage inside his body. Moreover, complete symbiosis means that this thing also occupies his brain. Without psychic ability, it is likely that the memory will be learned by it. This is something Su Yao absolutely cannot accept. But if there is only one symbiotic arm, even if something happens, it won't be serious. At that time, even if Venom has the idea of destruction, it will touch the light energy in his body and attract his attention immediately. If you want to cause destruction, you must also pass the test of light energy. I warn you, if you cross my right arm. Before he could finish his warning, Venom shouted excitedly, "Human, I agree." After saying that, his dark liquid body moved and immediately jumped onto Su Yao's right arm, and then quickly seeped into it. Su Yao didn't feel much. He just felt something running into his arm and felt something lodged in his right arm. He had a feeling that he could expel the Venom at any time if he wanted to. Other than that, he didn't feel anything else, and he didn't feel any discomfort either. The symbiote is really special, Su Yao murmured secretly. He is feeling here, the Venom entering his body, and he is feeling it carefully now. Before, it was only a second or two of symbiosis, and he didn't feel it very clearly. Now that the symbiosis was almost complete, he completely felt the difference. Human, you are very special and very powerful. I have never seen anyone like you. At this moment, Venom was filled with shock. If other human beings are weak and fragile, then he is very, very special. Warm sunlight energy, mysterious unknown cells. Everything gave him unprecedented strength, and he felt that he had never been so strong. He only felt that his whole body was full of strength, and his depleted energy was being replenished rapidly. In his obsession, he subconsciously used the power of the symbiote, trying to copy the power of this mysterious host. As a result, something unexpected happened. In shock, he felt that the replication had failed. The mysterious factor in the host cell in front of him is beyond the scope of his ability to copy and understand. Hell, I've never seen anything like this, Venom said in surprise. What is this? In addition, he also discovered something that he found incredible. These mysterious cells are actually eating away at him. Wisps of mysterious power appeared, slowly eroding and transforming him. Venom has doubts about life. His venom has always been the only one to corrode others, but one day he will be corroded by others. Is he a symbiote, or is he a symbiote? Venom's mood changed, but in the end he was still reluctant to leave this human body. Because this host is so great, he has never seen a better or more perfect host than this one. Of course, in addition to these, he unexpectedly discovered that although he could not clone the mysterious factors in the cells, he could obtain some other things. I don't know if it was his cloning or the erosion of the mysterious factor cells that made him seem to be able to absorb sunlight. A dark liquid tentacle stretched out from the surface of Su Yao's arm. As the sun shines on his tentacles, he can feel warmth all over his body, and all the physical energy he has consumed seems to be restored. Venom is overjoyed. In surprise, the tentacle changed and soon turned into a small black head. This is awesome, Venom shouted in surprise. Then, he said excitedly, you are very, very special. You are completely different from ordinary humans, as if you are not a living being. I've never seen anything so. He became incoherent. Su Yao glanced at him in surprise, and after asking, he understood the general situation. Absorbing sunlight is nothing, probably because of its ability to absorb energy. Mysterious factors in cells. Su Yao instantly thought of the sun shining. Whether it was when he awakened and the sun shone brightly or when the sun shone brightly and upgraded, he could feel a warm current flowing through his body. It was probably at that time that the cells were changed. He was not surprised that Venom couldn't be cloned. After all, the ability to shine in the sun is at the Omega level, and it is derived from imitating this ability. It is normal that Venom can't do anything with it. As for imitating this mysterious ability, it was expected that Venom was not aware of it from the beginning to the end. If he really discovered something, he would be really surprised. After thinking about it, Su Yao looked at Venom's dark little head and asked, what abilities do you have in total? Although he had some understanding, he still asked in detail to avoid any mistakes. Soon, with Venom's narration, he clarified Venom's other abilities. In addition to being able to change its form, it can also repair the damaged body of the host. At the same time, the Venom's physical resistance and extraordinary resistance are very high. There are also abilities such as allowing the host to breathe underwater, etc. Su Yao focused on changing his form and repairing the damage to his body. Raising his right hand, he tried to control the venom. In the next second, his right hand changed from flesh and blood to a dark liquid, and then solidified into a giant sword. With a thought, Su Yao turned the sword into a shield, gloves and other items. With a bang, his right hand transformed into a hammer and hit the ground. After the loud noise, a small pit appeared on the ground. It's like the material turned into metal. Su Yao sighed. As for the ability to repair the body, after taking a look at his body, he didn't dare to experiment. And, if it's just the right hand, it's impossible to repair other parts. Su Yao shook his head. Of course, he couldn't make Venom completely symbiotic. He tried here, and Venom said excitedly, how about it, human, isn't it good? I am the best, and being with you is even better. We are the strongest. No one can stop us. Su Yao was noncommittal upon hearing this and smiled slightly, this world is not as simple as you think. Venom looked confused. At this time, Venom's little face was full of curiosity and he asked, humans, do you have the ability to absorb sunlight and emit that black thing? You'll know later that it's time for us to get out of here. Also, my name is Sue. Su Yao walked towards the distance. Human. Sue, don't waste it, let me eat the heads of those 2 humans. With a sucking sound, Venom's long tongue licked its sharp teeth, and his eyes stared longingly at the 2 corpses not far away. As he walked, Su Yao shook his head, no. Although he didn't seem to need to use his mouth, he would still feel nauseous if someone's head really entered his body. As they walked, Su Yao stared at Venom's small body with confusion in his eyes. What's going on with your body? Why are you so small? Whether it's Spider-Man's version or Eddie's version of Venom, they shouldn't be so small, right? This looks a bit childish, and the size seems to have shrunk a lot. Venom was startled when he heard this. His dark little face was revealed, and his hoarse and thick voice said angrily, "That fool, how dare you abandon me? I will definitely go back with revenge." Listening to his story, Su Yao understood the general story of what happened, and also knew which version of the Venom it was. The Life Foundation. He frowned and thought to himself, has the plot changed? According to Venom's narration, it should be the plot of the Venom 1 Deadly Guardian movie. The Life Foundation conducted space exploration and brought back several symbiotes from a meteorite, and Venom was one of them. In order to complete the experiment of symbiosis and human symbiosis, the boss of the Life Foundation conducted a series of cruel human experiments. A reporter named Eddie Brock went to investigate an interview, and after a series of events, he brought the Venom out of the laboratory and completed a perfect symbiosis with it. Facing Eddie, who took away the symbiote, the Life Foundation launched a series of hunts. Su Yao frowned. From Venom's mouth, he discovered that the person who left the laboratory with Venom was not that Eddie. Is it because of my influence? Su Yao was thoughtful. Of course, none of the above is the most important. What is important is that if the plot progresses, the Life Foundation is likely to launch a rocket to bring back the meteorite containing millions of symbionts. By the time he told Venom about it, causing him to be shocked. Sue, how come you know so much about the Life Foundation? Not only the matter of the Life Foundation, but also the matter of the symbiote, the mysterious human being in front of him knew everything about it. At this moment, a strong suspicion arose in his heart. What exactly is going on? After thinking for a long time, his little brain still couldn't figure out why this human named Sue knew so many things and even seemed to be able to predict the future. After a while, Venom suddenly said solemnly, "We must stop them. We can't let that Life Foundation bring my compatriots to Earth." Su Yao glanced at him, as if he knew everything, and said, "Are you afraid of them?" Venom shook his head hastily, "No, I just don't want the Earth to be taken over by them." And he glanced at Su Yao. Excitement and ferocious killing intent flashed in his eyes. "It's enough to have us here, we are the strongest, we don't need those guys to get in the way." Su Yao pondered after hearing this. He was hesitant about whether to go. According to the progress of the plot, Eddie should have successfully prevented the arrival of the symbiote, whether he was involved or not. What if things change due to my influence? Su Yao couldn't help but think. He is not worried about whether people will die. His main concern is that the arrival of millions of symbiotes on the Earth is likely to change the development of many plots. By then, the advantage of foresight will disappear directly. After thinking for a while, he decided to go take a look. Glancing at Venom, he said, "You know where the Life Foundation is, take me there." Excitement flashed in Venom's eyes, and his face became ferocious while pulling Su Yao's right hand towards the Life Foundation. "Don't let me touch you, or I'll make you look good." The guy he was talking about had naturally abandoned his significant other. "Only the two of us are the strongest." There was excitement and anticipation in Venom's eyes, looking forward to the next encounter between the two parties. Su Yao walked in the direction directed by Venom. During this process, he tried to choose a hidden place to walk. He did not forget that he was still wanted and hunted. On the way, he had to sigh that there were really many gangsters in the United States. He received another few $100s in relief funds from the United States, as well as a black coat with a hood. With a black hood covering his head, he exuded a sense of mystery as he walked in a remote street. "Sue, why are you so careful? I think we should have a big fight instead of hiding our heads and tails like this." Venom communicated with Su Yao through spiritual communication, and his hoarse and rich voice was full of doubts. Su Yao shook his head. Maybe it will be as you wish when you get there, but you still need to hide it when you are on the road. Some people are hunting me. With that said, he didn't reply to Venom's doubtful words and concentrated on getting on his way. On the way, the sun occasionally shone on him, and his energy points slowly rose. Light energy +1. Light energy +1. Light energy +1. As he rushes towards the Life Foundation, Eddie Brock is having trouble with Venom. Eddie, this is a hallucination, it's not real. You're just a little uncomfortable. Eddie was walking on the street, trying to ignore the voice in his head, trying to treat it as an auditory hallucination. At this time, the inexplicable voice in his mind rang again. Eddie Brock, don't act stupid, you know this is true. Ignoring Eddie's self-deception, Venom continued, humans, listen to me, you should stay away from that Life Foundation and don't go there anymore. Seeing that he couldn't ignore the voice in his head, Eddie cursed, shit, this is my job. As he spoke, Eddie suddenly felt hungry. As he swallowed, he looked at the passers-by walking on the street, and a wave of longing arose in his heart. He has the urge to bite these people's heads. Eddie only felt that he was crazy, and tried to ignore that thought, just thinking that he was affected by the parasite and had a delusion. However, the more you ignore the hunger, the stronger it becomes. At this time, the voice in his head rang again. Human, stop, it's time to eat. Have you seen those delicious heads? Go over and nibble on them. Eddie Brock held his head and tried to ignore the feeling of hunger, but unfortunately he failed. In order to get rid of the thought of eating people's heads and the feeling of hunger, he rushed into a steak grill restaurant and quickly ordered his meal. While waiting, he couldn't hold back. He picked up the food that the waiter gave to others and started to eat it, causing a huge chaos. People exclaimed. While Eddie was adapting to the symbiote, the people at the Life Foundation already knew that they had been tricked by the symbiote. At this moment, they are urgently checking for any anomalies on the route, trying to find the escaped symbiote. A security guard with a communicator searched the streets. Soon, Eddie Brock's abnormality attracted the attention of the visitors. An abnormality was found and is being investigated. A black security guard shouted into the communicator, walked into the restaurant, and walked towards Eddie, who was eating lobster in the tank. Sir, please come with me. Thomas, the black security guard, said politely. However, Eli, who was obsessed with appetite, ignored him and continued to eat raw lobster by himself. Thomas's face darkened slightly, and he stretched out his thick black hands to grab Eddie, and then tried to take him away. Before he could catch Eddie, he was pushed back a few steps by Eddie's right hand. Thomas's face became even more gloomy, and he subconsciously picked up the electric baton at his waist to teach this man who was not giving face and still suspected a lesson. Just when he picked up the electric baton to teach Eddie a lesson, Eddie's right hand was covered in dark liquid and hit him hard in the chest. Boom! Amid the exclamations from the surrounding audience, Thomas was severely knocked several meters away. With a banging sound, he knocked over a row of tables and chairs. Eddie, who was still conscious, saw this and hurriedly explained, "Oh, I didn't want to, this hand doesn't obey its control." With that said, he fled the restaurant in a panic as the waiter shouted. Thomas struggled to get up, picked up the walkie-talkie and reported urgently, "Target found." He reported here that Eddie, who had escaped from the restaurant, was panicking. "Coward, you should eat that guy." Venom's disgruntled voice came to his mind. A panicked Eddie asked, "What are you, a parasite?" He could no longer deceive himself. "Parasite," Venom repeated in a high voice, seemingly very angry, and said angrily, "You are the parasite. I am Venom, the great symbiote Venom. Also, you guys need to escape from here quickly. Those people will catch you in the laboratory and conduct inhumane experiments on you." Escape. Eddie has not yet accepted the reality. Just as he was about to argue, 4 security guards in black appeared in front of him. "Stop, raise your hands high." The 4 men pointed guns at him. Shit. Eddie turned around and ran away subconsciously. Seeing him escaping, 4 security guards in black immediately pulled the handles of the tranquilizer guns. Bang bang bang. Dark tentacles emerged from Eddie's back, blocking the shots of anesthesia needles, and then with a quick movement, the anesthetic guns were knocked out of the hands of those people with a crackle. Seeing this scene, the 4 security guards in black were stunned. More and more security guards gathered around, and Eddie, who was possessed by venom in the process, showed a series of amazing powers. He made many inhuman movements and sensed danger, allowing him to dodge many attacks. The black tentacles easily whipped away the enemy, and even as the black liquid squirmed, a layer of venom armor was draped over his body. During the rampage, one security guard after another screamed and was knocked away, and the unlucky one was grabbed by the poison, and then opened his bloody mouth and swallowed his head. "Stop him, don't let him run away." Black-clad security guards were rounding up Eddie and Venom, and a group of people far away in the Life Fund building were shocked by the uploaded footage. In the conference monitoring room, Drake opened his hands, pointed at the picture on the screen, and said in amazement, "He is combined with the symbiote, did you see it?" He turned around and looked around, praising the staff and researchers, "Did you see it? They are integrated." Tris. He walked to the communicator and said urgently to the leading security guard in black in the video, "Bring my new creature back." After giving the instructions, Drake looked at Eddie's amazing fighting power on the screen and commented, "This is the perfect life. Look how perfect it is, amazing strength, amazing defense, and amazing speed. I have never seen such a perfect life. He and the symbiote have achieved a truly perfect symbiosis." Drake kept praising him. Among the dozen or so people watching the screen, some also echoed at this time. "Mr. Drake, you were right." The middle-aged man in a white coat agreed, "The compatibility between this man and the symbiote is really very high. It is completely different from the previous failed experimental subjects. This is why it's a perfect symbiosis. I don't think we will find a more perfect symbiote than this. We must bring this person back safely. We need his data." Ralph's eyes shone with desire. No one knows better than these researchers how important this perfect symbiosis is. He has never seen anyone achieve a more perfect symbiosis than this person. In the previous human experiments, all the test subjects died suddenly on the spot. Even those who survived by chance, their internal organs were rapidly failing and they would die soon. Not to mention, showing such inhuman changes and power on the screen. Even if those experimental subjects lived with the symbiote for a short period of time, they did not perform much better than ordinary people. Otherwise, they would have shown their strength and escaped from the laboratory long ago, and they would have been imprisoned and observed. The researchers next to him showed expressions of approval and amazement on their faces. Just as they were marveling at Eddie's perfect life, Eddie had escaped from his pursuers and fled home. Opening the refrigerator, he picked up some raw meat and ate it. Eddie came to his senses only after his hunger was relieved. "What have I done?" he said irritably. At this time, there was a kicking sound outside the door. With a bang, the door was kicked open. A group of security guards in black rushed in, and without saying a word, they picked up the tranquilizer gun and fired it at him. Venom quickly emerged from Eddie's body, and his black body blocked the anesthetic needles. The next second, the Venom suit was draped over Eddie. "Hey, stop. We have something to discuss." Eddie wanted to open his mouth to explain, but the venom controlling his body did not stop. His right hand turned into a dark tentacle and swung it towards those people. He stuck to someone and pulled him over, and punched him with his dark left hand. In just a moment, the security guard fainted. Jumping into the crowd, Venom punched them down one by one, just like beating up children. Tris, the bald man behind the crowd, picked up the walkie-talkie and said in fear, "No, he is too powerful, there is nothing we can do against him." Life Foundation. Drake, who was monitoring the battle, frowned and asked, "Is there any way?" At this time, a male researcher hesitated, stood up and said, "You can try sound waves." One after another glances came over. The researcher said slowly, "After experiments, we found that alien organisms like symbionts are very sensitive to sound waves, which can cause them pain and break away from the host's body. Those people can be equipped with sonic weapons, which can turn this person back into a normal person." Derek frowned slightly when he heard this, feeling a little dissatisfied, feeling that the perfect life in his mind was flawed. But even though he thought so, he still quickly gave instructions to prepare sonic weapons. "Retreat temporarily," Drake said into the communicator. Soon, the people who besieged Eddie began to evacuate, leaving Eddie in confusion. "Leave," Eddie said doubtfully. Venom emerged from his body, and the ferocious big head said, "Don't be careless, they won't give up, we'd better get out of here." Eddie's heart was pounding, and his legs were almost weak from the fright of this ghost thing that suddenly appeared. After some exchanges, he had to accept the fact that he was being hunted. While rummaging through boxes and cabinets, Eddie looked for useful things and quickly carried them with him. 10 minutes later, after packing his things, he ran downstairs, got on the motorcycle parked downstairs, and drove away from the Life Foundation. It's a pity that he was noticed by the person who was monitoring him before he had ridden very far. There was a slight gunshot in the distance, and then the bullet pierced the tire of the speeding motorcycle. Eddie rolled and fell to the ground with multiple bruises and fractures on his body. The bald man Tris slowly approached with a group of people. A smile appeared on his face and he said, "You're such a pain in the ass to me, Eddie." Eddie, who was lying on the ground, looked a little flustered and said, "I originally wanted to please you." Tris ignored him and fired several tranquilizer shots to completely restrict his movements. But at this moment, a shocking scene appeared that shocked Drake and others who were still under surveillance. Dark liquid emerged from everywhere on Eddie's body, quickly repairing the damaged parts and even twisting the broken bones. Eddie quickly stood up and put on the Venom suit. Oh, God! Tris and several security guards were stunned. Drake, who was watching, exclaimed, "Incredible." Tris and the others were about to shoot in panic, but unfortunately it had no effect. Venom grabbed one of them and bit him, swallowing the other person's head in one gulp. "Hey, we have something to discuss, Eddie." Facing the approaching Eddie, Tris stepped back step by step with a gun in hand, a look of fear on his face. "There's nothing to discuss, human." Venom grabbed him and looked him up and down. His long tongue licked Tris's face, leaving a trail of drool. "The eyes, lungs, and pancreas are all delicious." As he spoke, Venom opened his big mouth full of sharp teeth and was about to suffocate Tris's head. At this time, a bullet fired from a distance interrupted him. Venom stopped and turned to look at the person in the distance, his face becoming ferocious. Just as he was about to run over and eat the man, a harsh sound wave echoed around him. Buzz. No. Venom put Tris down and knelt on the ground in pain. In less than a few seconds, Eddie's Venom suit retracted, leaving Eddie restored to his original state. Surrounded by sound waves, Tris coughed a few times and slowly walked to Eddie's side. He whispered, "Eddie, why don't you keep showing off?" Facing the guns pointed at him, Eddie fell into despair. "Parasite, we are finished." Venom was also very desperate at this moment. He wanted to struggle, but he couldn't do anything to Soundwave. He couldn't do anything. Life Foundation. Well done, Tris. With a smile on his face, Drake ordered, "Come on, bring back this perfect symbiotic creature, the most perfect creature I have ever seen." However, just as he was smiling, Tris stretched out his arms, and Eddie and Venom were filled with despair. A sound of footsteps sounded not far away. A figure slowly walked over. The sun was shining brightly, and a dark shadow slowly approached against the sunlight. Hearing the sudden footsteps, everyone, including Eddie, turned their heads and looked over. I saw the person wearing black hooded clothes, covering most of his face, and his whole body was full of mystery. "Friend, it's very dangerous here, don't come close," Tris warned in a deep voice. However, his warning had no effect, and the visitor continued to approach on his own. Suddenly Tris and the others became alert, and the guns in their hands were vaguely pointed at him, as if they would shoot if he came closer. They were vigilant here. Venom, which was symbiotic with Eddie, seemed to sense something, and there was a look of surprise on his face. "This guy, he wasn't caught." Venom's voice was heard by Eddie, and he subconsciously asked, "Do you know him?" As soon as Eddie's voice came out, it instantly attracted the attention of a large number of people. Seeing the looks coming over him, Eddie said awkwardly, "I'm not telling you, well, you understand." At this time, Venom's voice sounded again, clearing up Eddie's confusion. "I feel that the other half of my body that I gave up is inside this person's body." Then, he quickly explained the cause and effect, making Eddie understand everything. Seeing that Eddie understood, Venom controlled Eddie's body and said under the gaze of Drake, "Tris and others, what are you doing here? Are you here to taunt me? Let me see what kind of host you chose." As he said that, Eddie looked the mysterious visitor up and down, but didn't see anything special, so he said nonchalantly, "It doesn't look like much to me, he looks very ordinary." Just when Drake and others were confused and didn't know what they were talking about, the mysterious man not far away stopped in an area where the sound wave impact was not too severe. Suddenly, dark liquid emerged from the person's right arm, and then formed a small venom head. My stupid other half, you will regret abandoning me not long ago and leaving me to attract enemies. And he is not ordinary. Su Yao's venomous and hoarse voice echoed. Eddie was stunned for a moment, then a smile appeared on his face and he said proudly, really? I really don't see anything special about him. But the host I chose is the most perfect host. There is no better body than this. Affected by his words, Eddie had a character that refused to admit defeat, and the venom in Eddie's voice was filled with pride. He was very satisfied with Eddie as the host, and truly felt that no one could be more perfect than him. He thought, this other half would tell lies. How could he find a body comparable to Eddie's in such a short time? They were talking here, and Drake and others, who analyzed a lot of information from their words, were surprised and delighted. Life Foundation. Derek hurriedly leaned over to the communicator, and passed the words of surprise to Triss. Triss, hurry up, catch this symbiote host too. A satisfied smile appeared on his face. It's really unexpected that we can accidentally capture another symbiote host. As for whether he could grasp this problem, he was not worried at all. Before there were sonic weapons, he might still hesitate, but now he is not worried at all, and even thinks that the symbiote host who came here is really stupid. Do you think you are invincible if you have a symbiote? This man should learn a lesson. The smile on Drake's face is getting bigger and bigger, as if he has seen the scene where after capturing 2 experimental subjects, after some experiments, he also became a perfect life. Under the watchful eyes of everyone at the Life Foundation, Triss and others took action after receiving the order. Buzzing. The next second, a person with a sonic device from afar ran over quickly. Eddie's face showed pain, and Su Yao was also shrouded in special sound waves. The poison in his hand showed a look of pain on his face, and he subconsciously retracted Su Yao's right hand. Seeing that the venom was also affected by the sound waves, Triss and the watching Drake and others breathed a sigh of relief. Put your hands up, we need you to come with us. The black pistol in Triss' hand was pointed at Su Yao. Just when he thought he had a chance to win and Eddie felt sympathy for the same problem, something unexpected happened to them. The mysterious man, who in their eyes had no resistance, suddenly had a blue light on his hand. Spiritual Light Pillar Experience +1. The next second, a blue high-energy light beam appeared, and then at an extremely fast speed, it instantly penetrated the security guard who was approaching with a sonic device in his hand. The sonic device he was holding was instantly annihilated by energy, and it also pierced his chest. Ah! With a scream, the man immediately fell to the ground. What's this? Everyone present looked shocked. Eddie's mouth dropped open. The venom in his body froze. The venom in Su Yao's body was also stunned. The smiles on the faces of Derek and others from the Life Foundation disappeared. Triss and the other security guards widened their eyes in horror, somewhat doubtful of what they saw. Hand-hair laser. Feeling the crisis, Triss subconsciously pulled the trigger on the black pistol in his hand. With a bang, the silver bullet spun and shot towards the target quickly. The sudden sound of gunshots startled everyone. When they saw the target of the bullets, they were even more shocked. I saw that the bullet was actually blocked by 2 fingers. Rebound Shield Experience +1. God Finger Experience +1. The sound of the mirror shattering was heard, and the space was shattered like a mirror. In slow motion, you can even see the silver bullet twisting and deforming under the huge impact, and even being cut into deep marks by the broken space debris. In an instant, a whooshing sound broke through the air, and the bullet flew back. Ah! My hands! Triss screamed. The twisted silver bullet exploded from his pistol, even penetrated his palm, and shot into his elbow. Holding his hand that was dripping with blood, Triss's face was full of horror. The others had similar expressions, with horror on their faces. Looking at the hooded figure in black standing not far away, they felt deeply suffocated at this moment. In just a short moment, whether it was the blue beam of light or the understatement of raising a hand to bounce the bullet, it brought them deep pressure. It was as if they were just a group of ants, and he was the Almighty God. Who are you? Triss endured the pain and said, this is not the ability of the symbiote, you. This question is not only his question, but also other people's questions. Eddie, who was possessed by the symbiote, was strong enough, but compared to this guy, he was simply not good enough. They even doubted that this man could easily kill Eddie. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.